everyone. If you please take your seats, we can call the meeting to order. Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to the Placerville Planning Commission regular meeting, Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Please call the roll.
Good evening. Commissioner Sylvester? Here. Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Vice Chair Lepper?
Here.
Commissioner, let's see, Chair Keeney?
Here.
And Commissioner Stratton? Here. Thank you.
We have no closed sessions report. And moving on, the next item is our consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by general consent unless any commissioner requests a roll call vote or unless any member of the commission, staff, or audience wishes to remove an item for discussion. And the only item on the consent calendar tonight is approving the minutes of our previous meeting on January 6th. Would anyone like to pull that item? No. Can I have a motion for approval?
Do I need to?
We do need to correct the spelling for Michael Drobish.
And
I'm sorry, that was correct.
There was a correction pointed out, the spelling of Mr. Drobish's last name.
maybe there were two typos that I'd sent in an email. Do I need to pull the
Okay.
minutes?
Yeah, we should.
Okay, we'll pull the minutes and take this under discussion. So there's two misspellings. I see on page 1, public comment from Michael Drobish. Is that,
What I had caught was that in two places his first name was misspelled. It was just the A and the E were reversed. Do I need to list the sections where that happens? So 8.1 under public comment.
under 9? Oh, here we go. I see under 8.1, there's a misspelling.
And 9.3, public comment,
9. Yes, first name, not last name.
first name. I don't actually know how to spell his last name.
It's spelled correctly on page 1, as far as I know. Okay, so there are two misspellings. Any other changes? Or
And then section 12.2.1 under historic design guidelines, there was a typo in the numbering. It was, all the items were numbered 13, but should be 12.
So, all right, with any other changes? Thank you for catching all those, appreciate it. All right. No further discussion? So we have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, from Ms. Stratton, and a second?
A second.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay,
I'm sorry, do I need to note as amended with the corrections?
as amended. All in favor of accepting the amended meeting minutes from our previous meetings, please say aye.
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 Hi.
And I abstain due to absence.
One abstention. Anyone opposed? All right. 4-0 with one abstention. Thank you. We'll move to number 6, which is items of interest to the public and public comment on non-agenda items. This portion of the meeting is reserved for people wishing to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. State law prohibits the commission from acting on items not listed on the agenda except by special action of the Planning Commission under specified circumstances. Would anyone in the audience care to address the Planning Commission at this time on non-agenda items? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to number 7, written communications on non-agenda items. We have none of those tonight, do we?
We did receive the email from Sam Thomas regarding item 9.2. That was provided to the City Council, the Planning Commission this weekend, and I believe we have copies in the back if any members of the public would like to view those.
So that is an agenda item.
Yes.
9.2. Okay, this for non-agenda, so there's no other topics, no non-agenda items for our consideration. Okay, so thank you. We'll be sure to take that up when we get to 9.2. Tonight we have no presentations or educational workshops, so that brings us to number 9, environmental assessments and public hearings. And tonight we have 2 on our agenda. The first is 9.1, which is General Plan Amendment 26-1 and a zone change 26-01 to apply the Housing Opportunity Overlay to 201 New Morning Court. Recommendation to adopt a mitigated negative declaration. And before we get underway with that, I need to disclose to the public that I am a member of the board of New Morning Youth and Family Services, which has a shelter at the end of New Morning Court, thus the name of New Morning Court, but I have no other financial or fiduciary link to that organization. So with that, any other disclosures since I've opened that up? All right, I'll turn it over to staff for the report. Ms. Kendrick?
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Carol Kendrick, Development Services Director, presenting this item. This action simply applies the existing housing opportunity overlay to the 2.36-acre vacant parcel at 201 New Morning Court, changing both the general plan land use designation and the zoning map from commercial to commercial housing opportunity overlay. Why are we here tonight? This is the first step in implementing the Housing Element Program A3, which the city committed to when HCD certified our 6th-cycle housing element in December 2022. Program A3 requires us to create 3 by right high-density sites, a minimum of 20 dwelling units per acre, to help accommodate our RHNA, which is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, and keep our housing element in substantial compliance. On December 3rd, 2025, HCD sent us a formal letter of inquiry asking on the status of Program A3. Our response on December 23rd outlined the staffing and timeline adjustments we are making, and tonight's action directly advances that commitment. Once the overlay is applied, future multifamily projects on the site will be ministerial and eligible for SB 35 streamlining review. The parcel is vacant and fully served by utilities. It's located immediately adjacent to Placerville Apartments and the New Morning Youth and Family Services Emergency Shelter. The Housing Opportunity Overlay carries objective standards already in our code, with 24 dwelling units per acre, a 60% max lot coverage, 40-foot height limit, and 1.5 parking spaces per unit. No changes to the underlying municipal code text are required. A site-specific initial study and mitigated negative declaration was prepared in July 2025 and circulated for a 30-day public review from January 27th to February 27th of 2026. This mitigated negative declaration concludes that all potentially significant impacts, biological, cultural resources, geology, hydrology, noise, and wildfire, etc., are reduced to less than significant with 7 standard mitigation measures listed in the Mitigation Monitoring and Reporting Program. No impacts were found for aesthetics, air quality, greenhouse gas, land use, or transportation, as no project is proposed at this time. During the public comment period, we did receive 2 comment letters from Ms. Kathy Duncack, the CEO of El Dorado County Fair, who expressed concerns about traffic noise, noise from the Speedway and fairgrounds, and compatibility. Staff confirms that the traffic analysis shows only 310 additional day trips, noise levels remain within standards, and parking will meet code. Ms. Kristen Patterson of New Morning Youth and Family Services noted the adjacent children's shelter. The initial study and mitigated negative declaration specifically identifies the shelter as a sensitive receptor and applies construction noise for traffic mitigations accordingly. Staff welcomes ongoing coordination with New Morning at this point, but again, we don't have a project for the vacant land. This is just complying with our housing element, which we committed to do back in 2022. So at this time, staff recommends that the commission find the initial study and mitigated negative declaration adequate and adopt the attached resolution with all the findings, and recommend that the City Council approve General Plan Amendment 26-01, that the Planning Commission make a recommendation to the City Council to approve the General Plan Amendment, to introduce and waive the first reading of ordinance for 7Z zone change 2601, and adopt the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring reporting program. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, and I'm sorry I had some dental work done today, so I might be speaking a little weird.
Oh, quite all right. Thank you very much. Excellent report, and just take your time until you get over that anesthetic from the dental work. I only have one question, and that is on page 2 of the staff report. There's a statement about once a property is developed under the base zoning, in this case, which is commercial, the housing overlay option is permanently forfeited. So I just want to make sure that we have a clear understanding how this housing overlay opportunity works. So the commercial zoning doesn't go away, but having this overlay gives literally an opportunity and flexibility in how the parcel could be developed. So the property owner, if they sell, or if they have a developer who wants to do the commercial, they come forward first, they can move forward with that plan.
Correct.
And then, but if they sell or find a developer that wants to take advantage of this multifamily housing zoning, then that can move forward.
Correct.
So if the commercial goes in first, is that statement true? The the overlay option is then permanently forfeited?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe that's the case.
Okay, practically speaking, once you have a commercial building up there, it could be modified, converted to housing or whatever, but then at that point, just depending on who kind of gets in there and develops it first, that's how it would likely stay.
Right, but there are other laws on the books that allow for conversion of commercial into residential. Staff just did a preliminary review for a project where they want to convert their commercial building to a duplex. And so there are state laws that allow them to do that. So, but that would
That statement that it is permanently forfeited is true, and if a conversion of the commercial to resident, that would take a different path in the future.
Correct.
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Okay, that was, this time, that's the only question I have for you. Any commissioners have questions of staff on the staff report? Go ahead.
I did. Could you tell us who owns the particular parcel? You've got a parcel number indicated.
The property owner is here in the audience. Her name is Danica. So I don't have her last name. This is not her application. It's a city-sponsored application. So I've just been talking with her about, where this is at in the process and bringing it forward because, again, it's in our housing element. And so.
If you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that at one point, we had some low-income housing development that was done and approved in the area where the Department of Motor Vehicles is. And that would have allowed us to meet our requirements for low-income housing under the Regional Housing Needs Allocation Program. Was that the case?
I'm not aware of that site.
It's the Cold, over by Cold Springs. And I think I know what you're referring to, Kirk, because I've been through this housing element review. And so, right, that does help fulfill our, obligation, the RENA obligation. However, this comes under a different program and from that. So when we look at our housing element, yes, the city has inventory available parcels zoned adequately to meet our RENA numbers, but this is a new program and it is called A3, Program A3, and it was adopted by City Council and it is specifically for this multifamily more dense housing. And so the project you're referring to, yes, that does help fulfill our obligations, but this is yet another program that the city needs to move forward. And as Ms. Kendrick pointed out, we don't have a project, but what we need to demonstrate to the state in order to maintain our certified housing element is to show that we're making progress in fulfilling this program A3. So it's, I had to think through this myself. So, yes, you're right. We're moving forward and fulfilling our requirements, but this is a completely different program.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about that. Yes, so Middletown, I believe, is what you're referring to, so that does help. But again, this was something that we committed to the state. Council approved the housing element, which this is a program in. Like I said, these are things that we committed to back in 2022. The housing element is from 2021 to 2029. We have already started discussions on kicking off Cycle 7, and that will really start gaining traction in 2027, but we've already been meeting with SACOG. We have SACOG coming out this month to take a look at, our projects or potential land, and just helping understand Placerville's needs and how they can help us with the 7th cycle. So it's, like I said, we're trying to get as many programs implemented as we can so that we're substantially compliant and moving forward before we get into the 7th cycle housing element.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Kendrick? Okay, so we don't have a project applicant on this, so at this point, we're just going to move forward and take public comment, right?
That's correct. I
Okay.
believe we have some members of the public and we have the property owner here.
Okay, yeah, this time I'd like to invite such members to the podium to discuss this general plan and zoning change to allow this housing opportunity overlay. And since we have a pretty big agenda tonight and there are a lot of people here, I'm going to ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or so. So if you would, please state your name for the record and welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight. And
Thank you. My name is Kathy Dunkak. I did write in a letter, but I have some additional information. I am the CEO at the El Dorado County Fairgrounds. We oppose rezoning of this parcel for various reasons, some of which I noted in my letter. But I've been doing a lot of research in between the time I wrote that letter and today. And I wanted to first of all ask this commission to please be very thoughtful about this. Our concern is we are already severely impacted. We're landlocked. We can't grow. We run out of parking at every major event during the fair. That whole side of the city is completely impacted. We get to the point where we can't park enough people. especially if we have more housing that is opposed to the activities at the fairgrounds and the Speedway. The other issue I have, and my question, I guess, would be, have any of you actually, I know you probably have because you're on the board, but have you actually seen this parcel? It says it's 2.36, so it looks pretty good, but in real life, I think you mentioned 60% of it is buildable. So if it were to be rezoned for multifamily housing and we had 56 multifamily housing, I'm assuming that's 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, you can only get an average of 75 to 80 cars per 0.77 acres. So once again, we're looking at building a project with inadequate parking for its tenants. The other issue is, once we let this go and rezone this into housing, on the original proposal that I was reading about, the project on Mallard Lane, it was set for 72 units, 2-story building. It's 3 stories. So I don't know at what point that changed, but I think once you guys give the green light to rezone it and we can build housing on it, then with all these acts, et cetera, that are coming down from Sacramento, they're gonna pretty much build what they want. With the Armory project, 83 units, 92 parking spaces on 2.58 acres. Again, only about half of it is buildable. The Middletown project is the best one that I came up with, 82 units on a 4-acre parcel with 116 parking spaces, and most of that parcel looks buildable. If you look at some of our historic low-income housing that we have in Placerville, if you've driven down Cold Springs Road and Woodbridge Court on a weekend or on evenings, it's dangerous. People end up parking on the streets, and those of you that use Ray Lawyer Drive, and if you've been on Ray Lawyer Drive during the fair time, you'll notice that there's cars parked on both sides of the road, and it's pretty, it could be a danger. So I'm just really asking this commission to please be very thoughtful about the impact on our town and our community. The fairgrounds is going strong, the Speedway's going strong, but historically, when we start getting landlocked with housing, these things go away. We don't want that to happen. Thanks for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Good evening.
I'm Lori Wharton. I'm on the Fair Board, and certainly parking is a major discussion for us and a major concern for us. Also, I'd like to point out that the fair has been here since 1939, so we are historic. We have a major impact for the kids that are in various programs at the fair, and so also would like you to be cognizant of the impact that we have in our community and how important we are to our community. The race fans, the kids that are in 4-H, Imagination Theater, we do a lot for the community, and I would appreciate that consideration, and perhaps considering the historic value. We've been here since 1939. We've been here for a long time, and parking is definitely a major issue, as is noise. So I live 3 miles away and I can hear the fair. So just keeping that in mind, if people build a house next to an airport, what do? Complain all day about the airport and the planes coming in and out. Please consider those things.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danica McLean. Single member LLC. Norwegian Star Properties is the owner of 201 New Morning Court. I am not a developer. I would love to see this property developed, however, and I would love the opportunity to develop it. Some of my ideas have been to actually provide for parking for the fair. I bought a golf cart and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun to park cars there, make a couple bucks and drive them to the fair. Also, you're welcome to purchase the property. Maybe that would solve their problem, because I bought it as an investment. I am a small-time house flipper. I love the property. It's beautiful. There's a sunset to die for. But, I mean, I think it would be a great part of the fairground inventory for parking as well. So if they want to take advantage of that, they certainly can. They can contact me to do so. On the other hand, as far as housing is concerned, I'm aware that El Dorado County has a shortage of housing. I love flipping houses for that very reason. I love making something beautiful that was once tore apart. New Morning Court was actually that purchase for me as well because it was overrun by homeless people. The Mountain Democrat actually featured us in the paper because we cleaned it up right away and we put a fence around the property. And we are still, all the time, monitoring the homeless, making sure they're not overtaking the property, keeping the trash off of the property. We spent thousands and thousands of dollars to improve it. I myself, my husband Jeff, and our crew removed all the trash, and it was tons and tons of trash and people that lived there for a long time. The police department was there multiple times in helping us to sort of relocate the homeless. I understand that is an issue in our city as well. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Property's beautiful. I'm happy to be here. This is my first Planning Commission meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for stepping up and making that offer to the Fair Board to help alleviate their parking constrictions. Good evening.
Good evening. So this is the parcel that's just above Napa Auto Parts, right?
Yeah, kind of.
So I remember-
More, but you know where that Verizon store is? It's more
Exactly
that
my point, because when
parcel.
Verizon came in and got permission to put a high power equipment up there, that they had to put signage on that building that
On the Verizon
didn't
building?
go up on the roof and get fried by microwaves. So if this is a terrace above that roof line, did the MND analyze that for safety? Because it would be basically pretty close to that tower, and it at least needs to be addressed in the MND. I have no idea if it's safe or not. I don't know. Just a thought. And the idea of that driveway with the line of sight, either the city's gonna have to reduce the speed limit on Ray Lawyer or try and improve the line of sight from that driveway, or I'm not sure if it's no parking right now on that north side of Ray Lawyer, but that's a potential danger, is that driveway interaction with Ray Lawyer, line of sight, speed, crashes, all that. I do remember also Pierre cobbling together a bunch of smaller parcels so that we could meet our RENA numbers. And I remember what Mr. Smith was referencing. So I don't know if this, it sounds like this is a completely separate program. But my question then would be, do any other parcels fit this program if it's not a good fit for this site?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, I'm Deidre Kobervig, and I'd like you to raise your hand if you've been to this site and looked at it as a planning commission. So 2 out of 4, over here 2, okay? And you've been to the, okay. And probably if you looked at it, you know it's not 100% usable. So the usable acreage is much smaller than represented here to be covered. And also, when you do come in the community and you do buy something, you buy something that's zoned, and you know when you buy it what it's zoned as. And to come in to buy and appreciate that someone is willing to come and clean up a parcel, help with the homeless problem, share the parcel. I don't know how you, if you had this building, you could share any parking with the fairgrounds because the tenants need their parking. Anyway, I think it's a little too much density in that small area on what's buildable. Again, when someone buys a parcel, they know what it's zoned for. Then to come in and ask for something else, you know, I appreciate their effort to do that, to whatever goals they have, but I don't know how you can say it has no impact, because 10 extra cars have an impact. You know, more kids in the area have an impact. So it does not have zero impact on the community. It will have an impact. So thank you.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you. Okay, anyone else like to speak about this item for the housing opportunity overlay? All right, we're going to close the public comment portion, and I would like to take this opportunity to address as many of the concerns as we can tonight, and I'll be deferring to city staff for some of these technical things. But first, we all have to keep in mind that there's no project. And so when we talk about parking for tenants, parking for the fair, we don't have a project. What we're doing is putting a new zoning opportunity on this parcel. And I absolutely do. I think we all appreciate the comments that we've heard about the topography being a bit of a problem. And so whoever comes to purchase the property from you, or if you find a developer, those are the challenges that they will have to consider when they go then to actually develop a plan. So at this point, that's unknown, although your concerns are very valid, but we aren't to the point yet that we can really consider them, except for the extent that was the consultant was able to do that in the initial study, Mitigated Neg Deck. And in there, they did address all of these concerns, including the things like the maximum occupancy, if you will, build out on that parcel. And I'm not going to try to quote specific numbers, but in the ISMND, their conclusion was that, it's a certain number of car trips per day. And so that would not negatively impact, increase the number of trips up and down Ray Lawyer Drive. Mr. Drobesh's comment about analyzing the line of sight and that curve that the road takes, that is also commented on in the initial study. And again, this is something when we actually get a project, whether it's commercial or whether it's residential, at that time, the city engineer will have to comment and we'll have to address it. But since we don't have any specifics, it's not something that could be analyzed in the initial study. I'm really happy that, again, Ms. Kemp, is that Dana Kemp? Anyway, I appreciate you making outreach to the Fair Board. I hear, about this constraint that they have. They might need more parking, and so if something can be arranged to purchase that, again, that would be a completely different project for consideration either by the city staff, or they might have to bring it to the Planning Commission for consideration and approval. And yes, the fairgrounds are vitally important to our community, and we, absolutely, we appreciate them. I know I enjoy going and enjoying our fairgrounds, and right, parking is a challenge during some of these events, and so these are, things that we are aware of and have been addressed in the initial study. So usability, zoning, and density. One thing I did, Ms. Kendrick, if you would say a little bit about the objective design standards. Ms. Dunkak mentioned building height and, how we make these things fit in the space once we get a project. So under this housing overlay opportunity, we do have to apply these objective standards. So if you don't mind, Ms. Kendrick, if you could speak to that just briefly to let the public know what those objective standards entail and how they might be applied should a developer come forward and have a project for consideration.
I'm sorry, I'm actually reading Program A3 from the housing element, which specifically identifies this parcel and 2 other sites as well. But it says the city would develop through community input, objective design and development standards and revise subjective standards for various forms of attached single-family residential dwellings, including townhomes and row houses and multifamily residential dwelling units within Title 10. So we do have development standards in our municipal codes. I apologize, I'm pulling that up right now. Crickets.
Are you referring to the development standards that are described in the staff report on page 2? Maximum density, lot coverage, and so on? Okay. The staff report reads 20 dwelling units per acre, maximum 60% lot coverage, 40-foot height limit, 1.5 parking spaces per unit.
Yes.
So that was described in the staff report?
Yes.
Okay, and that's what you're referring to, are our development standards?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so I hope that I have addressed as many of your questions as we can at this time. Again, I appreciate your concern for potential impacts, but at this point we don't really have specific projects so that we can say exactly, what would be done once a project comes forward. Then we would have that kind of information. Ms. Kendrick, anything else you'd like to add before we start deliberating? Any other, especially the public comment that we received that I'm not able to answer?
Right. So as you mentioned, there is no project at this time. So we don't have information on what will be developed on the site. It could be commercial, it could be residential, multifamily residential. So a lot of those impacts won't be known until we get a project. As Mr. Drobish brought up the additional or other sites that we could look at, this site was specifically called out in our certified housing element. Like I said as well, this is site 2 on part 2 of section 2 of our housing element, page II7. There are 2 other housing opportunity overlay sites that will be coming to you at your next meeting. So again, this is something that the city committed to the state to have our housing element certified. I would like to point out that the parking would be based off of state law that preempts the city's parking requirements for affordable projects. These are state requirements to meet these RENA numbers. There are consequences for not complying with our housing element implementation that could lead to decertification of our housing element, which would impact our general plan. It also it has an ability to make us not available to receive grants on a state and federal level. And there could be fines, and there is also the builder's remedy, which is if you don't have a certified housing element, you can have a developer come in and propose kind of whatever they want, density-wise, and there's not really anything you can do about it. A lot of coastal cities dealt with this because their housing element wasn't certified on time for the 6th cycle, as most cities weren't on time, but that is something that is a reality. So again, a lot of this is coming from Sacramento, and we're just trying to bring this forward so that we're doing what we said we would do back in 2022.
Okay. Thank you for pointing all that and reminding us of the builder's remedy and the consequence of not following through on our, the things that we've agreed to, the city council has agreed to in the previous rounds of the housing element approval. So I think we have a good idea of the importance of this particular item before us. It's something the city needs to show progress on, to report back to the Housing Authority for the state so that we can stay, eligible for grants and we don't lose that certification of our housing element. So I'd like to open it up for comments from the rest of the commission. And also, too, if questions have come to mind, Ms. Kendrick can try to address those as we move forward. Anyone else have a comment?
I just wanted to say I appreciate your explanation of the status where we are, excuse me, and just knowing how big of an issue housing is for our community members. I welcome any creative solutions that might be available in the future.
Echo the same comments, but also add, if I understand this correctly, so we approve this resolution for these standards. It doesn't preclude these objections being raised in the future for a specific project. Is that correct?
It depends on the type of project. So if it's an affordable project, it doesn't come before, it's administrative, and that's by the state. So if it's a commercial project, or if it's market rate, it would come before this body, but it just depends on the type of project.
But if, as far as things like the line of sight, I think I remember this in the initial study. Safety things, we have our development standards, but engineering department, for example, would take on that responsibility to make sure that all the safety things are addressed, so that that curve, that the size of the driveways, that would all, it would all be at city staff level. It just wouldn't come to planning commission.
That's correct.
Okay.
I guess I'll just add, you guys have all raised all of the same thoughts, questions, and answers that I had to the project, so I'd be open to making a motion if...
I'd welcome a motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we recommend that the City Council adopt a mitigated negative declaration pursuant to the CEQA, finding that all potentially significant impacts have been mitigated to less than significant levels, and recommend that the City Council approve General Plan Amendment GPA 26-01 to amend the General Plan land use designation from commercial to commercial housing opportunity overlay for the 2.36 acre site at 201 New Morning Court, and to also recommend that the City Council introduce and waive the first reading of an ordinance approving zone change ZC 26-01 to amend the zoning map from commercial to commercial housing opportunity overlay for the same site.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Mr. Smith. All right. Any further discussion? Okay. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Sylvester,
Aye.
Commissioner Lepper,
Aye.
Commissioner Stratton,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
Aye.
Chair Keeney.
Aye. All right. 5-0, unanimous vote. And is this come under the same appealable, or this is just going straight up to our city council, right?
This is just a recommendation, so it is going to City Council, and that decision can be, well, it can't be appealed, it just, you,
At that time, then the public can address the city council?
yes.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to be clear on the process. Great. All right.
I just wanted to say thank you to staff for keeping us in compliance with these state laws.
There's a lot.
Okay. I would like to move on to 9.2, which is site plan review for the Taco Bell site. However, would any of you like to take a 5-minute break at this time? Or are you ready to move forward?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's move on. 9.2 is the site plan review for the Taco Bell site. This is consideration of a request to remodel the existing fast food restaurant and drive-through at 2140 Broadway in the Hangtown Village Square Shopping Center. I will turn it over to you, Ms. Kendrick, for the staff report.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Carol Kendrick, Development Services Director, presenting site plan review, SPR 8305R for the Taco Bell remodel at 1240 Broadway in the Hangtown Village Square Shopping Center. The applicant is Philip Moss of VMI Architecture, representing the property owner, Thomas Concord, California, LLC, that is requesting approval to remodel the existing quick service restaurant with the following changes. Reduce the indoor seating capacity from 50 to 25 seats. Redesign the drive-through lane to provide a minimum 9-car on-site stacking queue. Reduce the on-site parking from 9 stalls to 6 stalls while relying on a reciprocal parking agreement with the shopping center. And complete site improvements including new ADA-compliant ramps and guardrails, sidewalks, curbs, bollards, menu board relocation, a new speaker and pedestal, clearance bars, refreshed diagonal arrows, and 4-inch parking stall lines, a refaced pylon sign, a repaint and landscaping to match the existing planning in the highway commercial zone. All work does remain within the existing building footprint with no expansion of the structure. The application is to revise the original 1983 approvals, conditional use permit 8307 and site plan review 8305 that first allowed the fast food restaurant and drive-through. Although a critical condition was applied in 1983 that states if the drive-through is ever associated with traffic problems on site or on Broadway, the city shall call a hearing to consider alternatives or closure of the drive-through. Subsequent amendments were approved in 23 for building and sign changes and in 24 for landscaping. The applicant submitted this revision in July of 2024. Because the city did not act within the required timelines on their most recent resubmittal, the applicant properly requested the public hearing under the California Permit Streamlining Act, Government Code Section 65920-65964. For context, the Permit Streamlining Act is a 1977 state law designed to expedite discretionary development approvals like site plan reviews while preserving public input and local authority. Key requirements include a 30-day completeness review, and once that application is complete and CEQA review is finished, a 60-day decision deadline for categorically exempt projects such as this one. If the local agency fails to act within that period, the permit is deemed approved by operation of the law under Section 65956, carrying the same force as a formal approval. Only one written mutual extension is allowed. The applicant invoked the provisions of the city because the city exceeded the 30-day timeline for completeness review, which is why this item is calendared before you here tonight. The Permit Streamlining Act ensures projects cannot be delayed indefinitely, yet it still requires the full public hearing so the commission can make an informed decision. The site is zoned and designated as highway commercial, consistent with the general plan and zoning ordinance. However, 2 significant issues have been identified by staff in the engineering department. Number 1, the drive-through and queuing traffic. Although the proposed 9-car stack exceeds Taco Bell's corporate minimum of 5 cars between order and pickup, a traffic study documented peak queues of up to 12 vehicles. The applicant's queue management program proposes additional staffing, curbside pickup, and pre-order promotion, but engineering find it lacks enforceable commitments and keep clear signing. Engineering recommends that the commission consider directing a city council hearing on alternatives or the drive-through closure per the 1983 condition. Number 2, parking. The entire Hangtown Village Square Center is underparked. We asked the applicant to provide us with the number of parking spaces, which they indicated is 267. If we looked at parking requirements today, it would need 405 parking spaces across all tenants. Reducing Taco Bell stalls from 9 to 6, even with Reciprocal agreements could worsen peak hour circulation, especially as indoor seating is cut in half and drive-through reliance increases. So staff did want to just take that into consideration, again, with the parking. So that's just a concern that we wanted to raise, even though there is a parking agreement. Staff has determined that this project qualifies for a Class 1 categorical exemption under CEQA Guidelines 15301, existing facilities with no significant environmental effects under the current SB Bill, Senate Bill 743 vehicle miles traveled standards. Proper noticing was completed with property owners being notified within a 300-foot radius of this hearing, and it was published in the Mountain Democrat on February 20th of 2026. One comment was received from the shopping center owner, Steve Puttiff, requesting a continuance to resolve the concerns about shared parking, garbage enclosure relocation, and driveway routing. And the Planning Commission did receive communication after the packet was distributed from the property owner, which was provided over the weekend to the Planning Commission. At this point, staff recommends opening the public hearing, receiving testimony, and then direct one of the following. Deny the application based on the inconsistency with the 1983 condition, traffic impacts, and parking deficiency. Or to direct staff to return on April 7th with draft conditions of approval. 3 is to direct staff and the applicant to negotiate a written 90-day extension under the Permit Streamlining Act so that we can continue working on these issues. Our intention would be to bring that back to the April 7th meeting if we can work with the applicant and the property owners and get some solutions to some of these concerns. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. There's a lot of detail in here and some specifics that I don't think we've really had to deal with often here at the Planning Commission. I had one question about the parking and variance table that's on page 6. Is that a city product, or was that provided by the applicant?
That was provided by the applicant at the city's request.
At the city's request, the applicant provided that. Okay. But that's their work, if you will. Okay. And also on the same page above that, and you mentioned this in your report just now, the queue management program does not have enforceable commitments or demonstrated effectiveness. What would those commitments, what would that look like? And is that something that is part of your ongoing discussion? Is that, Ms. Sadvich, something that you're prepared to discuss?
Yeah, so we had talked with the applicant about some more like reactive measures when there are traffic queues that are starting to spill into the street. How are they going to react in that moment to try to manage the traffic so that it doesn't spill into Broadway? And so the plan that was put together and provided to us was more of like a proactive approach, which I think can be helpful. But we also do want to see more of that reactive measure when the queues do start to spill into the street.
And enforceable commitments. What are we talking about? What would you envision, or do you think
we're still exploring what that looks like?
Still exploring. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for giving me your best answer at this time.
One of the items was to have Taco Bell have written procedures on when you get to the 10th car, or there are issues where you're backing onto the street. So there are other things that staff had asked for, so that it's in writing and it would be part of staff training for that location.
Okay, so these are kind of the continuing work at this time. Okay. That's the only questions I have for staff right now. Go ahead.
Sorry, Chair. Has backing up into the street been an issue for this restaurant so far?
It has been observed, yes.
And we're talking onto Broadway. Okay. And I suppose also in front of the Starbucks and that kind of grass area? That seems like a
yeah.
natural place.
They share the same driveway, so it's hard to say if, when that happens, if it's directly attributable to one place or the other.
Okay,
It could be either.
okay.
That was one of my questions regarding the Starbucks versus Taco Bell drive-through there, since they are co-used, that we are able to delineate which one is causing the issue, if you will. So that is a concern of mine, to be clear on how we're defining that with regards to Taco Bell. But also, Ms. Kendrick said something that had struck me in this, which was if there was a problem under the 1983 approval, the city would call a hearing, but this city has not called a hearing on this issue, right? This was triggered by Taco Bell coming to us with an application.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I'm looking at the email that was received from the Hangtown Village Square owner, and I was having issues identifying what his concerns were. So would you be able to clarify, for example, let me pull it up. Where'd it go? It's mentioned that there's parking spots on the development plan that are not owned by Taco Bell. Is that something that would halt further progress? Because it seems to be outside of the parcel lines.
Actually, that property owner's here tonight. He could probably clarify more for you. But again, there's a parking agreement for the center. So, like I said, but we know parking's an issue, so it's complicated.
Okay. And then what procedurally happens if the property owner wasn't to approve the development plan? Like, how does...
For the shopping center owner, so the Taco Bell is a separate parcel from the shopping center. So there's communication that needs to occur between them, but because it's a separately owned parcel, it would become...
I see, okay.
Yeah, they can make comments, but they don't need to approve it for it to move forward.
I see, thank you.
In the emails that we received today, there were elevations, like building elevations with color schemes and things like that. And I was curious, is that something that we're also reviewing today? Or, I mean, is that also part of this?
Same concern.
It is, but we were trying to focus on the issues. I mean, we had a lot of attachments, but I know I sent you more. Like I said, it's kind of complicated and just trying to address those concerns. But if the applicant does want to work with us and the Planning Commission wants to continue this item, we'll have a more complete packet that goes into detail on the change in the colors and the signage. We were just trying to focus on really kind of the two main issues that are preventing this to move forward.
I see. Thank you.
I took a look at our site plan review checklist, and since there isn't an expansion of use, I thought perhaps the change in color might not come before the Planning Commission. But that was just on that one document I checked. So I thought
it does require. So I believe it was like section P. I was looking at it today, and so if you're making any kind of aesthetic changes, it does come before the Planning Commission. So that is under your purview.
Okay, so that does,
Yes.
even though there's not a expansion of use, the footprint staying the same.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? No? All right. So at this time, I want to thank you both for answering our questions. This is kind of complicated, and I appreciate you working your level best. You know, it's, I want to remind everyone, you know, it's our goal to have vibrant, successful businesses in the city. We don't want them to fail, so we want to do everything we can to promote that. And this is obviously a very successful business. And so, on one hand, we want the owner to make improvements that are deemed necessary. On the other hand, as a planning commission, we have to take into consideration potential impacts and what can be done to lessen those impacts on Broadway and on the other businesses, and do what we think is take what is the best option. So, having said that, I want to invite is the applicant here, or who would like to speak first? As far as representing the project, we always like to hear from the applicant first to walk us through, and then we would take comments from the public. I'm sorry, I can't hear. Well, whatever order then that typically we hear from the applicant to review and answer our questions, and we take other comments. But go right ahead. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Steve Puttiff, and my wife Judy and I are the owners of Hangtown Village Square, obviously. And I was here tonight mainly, initially, against this proposal, because I had received something in a document. It looked incorrect. I mean, it looked like it was blocking our drive-through access, etc. But tonight, I received the final one, just received it tonight, and looking at it, I don't have that concern now. They've mitigated that issue, so we have access throughout. The one problem I have with it is the parking on the back side. I was out reviewing the site a couple of days ago and talking to the employees of the Taco Bell, and they were saying, well, we park back there and along there. And I said, no, you can't. I mean, that we don't allow our people that work in our center to park in this whole area that is designed for customers. So we ask the people to park in our shop in the market next door, which we own, or along the road on the other side. So it's not a problem, but I would like to get a commitment from Taco Bell that they have a guideline for their employees not to park in that area that is shown on this site, because those are not their parking lot, as was pointed out here. And as far as the stacking and all that, I have no problem, or I have no concern with that. As far as Broadway, that's your problem, not mine. But so anyway, I'm okay with the plan as is now, with the stipulation that I get an agreement from them not to have their people parking there. So how are we going to get that? Employee parking. So it looks like we're going to be able to get agreement on that. So did you want to say something on the color?
Well, I appreciate you clarifying that email, but I'd like to get back to our usual process and hear from the applicant. And Ms. Puthoff, we'll open it up for public and other comments after we have our questions about this project and what's going to go where, including this reciprocal parking agreement. So I appreciate you being patient with us so that we can stick to our procedure. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. I'm here instead of my son, who he actually is in the hospital right now. He got colitis, or we're figuring it out. But so I call myself the janitor. I'm his father. And but I'd first like to state that I got to spend quite a few hours up here because I came from the Bay Area and wanted to beat the traffic. And I was so happy and pleased with the beautiful shopping center that I understand your family developed many, many years ago. And it's clean as a whistle, and they've got a guy out there that greets people and manages parking and such. And I guarantee you, I assume Taco Bell and they're going to be able to work through this parking thing, but I guarantee you, Fred, who's out there, is going to make sure that all that happens. And so I just wanted to say, we're pleased to own property in Placerville, and we're a good owner, as they are good owners. And Taco Bell is a great operator, and they've got a great architect and Peter, and I think together we can work through any of the issues that are out there. And, you know, interesting, I think it was Elisa maybe talked about is it Starbucks, is it Taco Bell? Well, we've got to, we'll figure that out, but I just, you know, in my novice way of doing things, I just sat out there with my phone and videotaped how long it took a Taco Bell customer to move through the queue. And it was, including the 5 seconds it took to ask them, their customers, if they wanted to round up and make a donation to the Taco Bell Foundation. It was about 1 minute and 22 seconds. And Starbucks was, you know, 2:20, both with single occupant type vehicles. And
So you're going to have a new career as a traffic engineer?
well, I don't know, but you know, I mean, I am the janitor. So, but at any rate, I know that it can come together. I think the way they're proposing to more than, you know, to basically double the stacking and leaving the drive aisle open, that was a concern of Steve and Judy is not happening, and I think in the end it's going to, you know, keep jobs in the community, and they've got a great team over there. They're all delightful, and it'll be a good business for years to come for the community. So thank you, and Peter, I don't know if you're going next, or Andrew, or yeah. Thank you very much, and any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Hi.
Good evening.
Philip Moss for BMI Architecture, representing Taco Bell, Sutherland. One of the things I want to clarify first is that people don't understand, Taco Bell is a large corporation, but they've branched out. Everything in California except for one restaurant is owned by franchisees, which are small groups of people. And that's the case here. This is not a big conglomerate. This is a small group that own some Taco Bells. There are a number of things I want to get to the report on. And I just want to tell you, I do appreciate the staff. They've worked very hard on this project. The issue, as you heard, we started this back in 2024. We presented the plan you have in front of you in February of 2025. So over a year ago, we have had no movement on this plan. We've asked for feedback studies. We've gotten dribbles here, dribbles there, but we've actually had to call the city and ask, can we have a meeting? I know staff is understaffed. I know they're busy, but we also have deadlines as a franchisee of Taco Bell that we have to meet. That said, there were a couple things that I found interesting, which was presented to you tonight, was a full traffic drive-through study done by an independent person that worked with the city engineer. We just got a name and said, call Melissa Savage and talk to, what do they want? Just give it to them. And that's the numbers you see here. Now, the confusing part is there's a number there that we took out there one time, one day, that there were 12-car queue. But that queue was in a 30-minute span. It wasn't a spot 1 second count. It was cars going through the queue for well, it's 15 minutes, from 6 o'clock to 6:15 on a Wednesday. I think the conclusion of the traffic engineer is good. He said that the 9-car stack, Taco Bell standard, it was said that Taco Bell standard is not a 9-car stack, it's a 7-car stack. And above that, Taco Bell feels that they have a plus of, 2 more parking stacking.
So I appreciate you bringing that, because we've had different numbers, including, I think it's one, our attachment B, talking about a minimum stack of 9. So that is from Taco Bell?
No,
Oh.
That's not from Taco Bell. Taco Bell's minimum stack is 7.
Is 7, okay, because elsewhere we've seen the number 5.
Right, there are numbers on here that have been
Okay, so 7 is
Is it
as a
minimum stack?
franchisee, you need to adhere to that number 7 in the stack, is that right? That's an
correct.
obligation
We
for
feel
you?
That's a good operable stack.
Okay, so 7.
given the situation here, we're trying to be sensitive to the fact that cars could back out onto Broadway. So our traffic engineer looked at that, and his conclusion was that in most cases, he couldn't make a finding for that. He could make a finding for 9-car stacks, and he never found that it went that far in. Not to say it hasn't. You know, things happen in drive-through lanes that are unpredictable, where one person decides they want to change the order 3 times, and it starts backing up a little bit. So what we presented as our queuing management issue or plan was the standard Taco Bell queuing management plan. We presented that to staff. They said it was inadequate. And so we're trying to figure out what they want. We're not an enforcement group. Blaming Taco Bell for the traffic, all the traffic out there, I think is unjust. We might be, you know, we've got Starbucks right next to us, which has a lot more traffic going through the drive-through than we do. We'd be thrilled if we had that much traffic going through our drive-through. So what I'd like to just add is that we're willing and have been working with the city as much as we can. I'm the bad guy that said, you know, we've been on this for over 1.5 years now. We need to move it forward to a decision-making board because we have some disagreements that's not getting resolved. I don't know what they're looking for in their queue management plan. We're not an enforcement company. We don't want to hire an enforcement company because that's just a bad image for Taco Bell to have police cars or policemen out there directing traffic or just standing there. So, you know, it just leads to people feeling that there must be something unsafe at this site when in fact there's nothing unsafe at the site. At the very start of this, I was told that since 1984, there have been 2 complaints filed about the drive-through, but the city cannot produce those for me, so I don't know how to respond to them. I don't know what they were about, or, you know, somebody had a bad day. But I think it's unfair to throw Taco Bell in as the only issue for traffic at the center. Obviously, there are times of years that center is going to get busy. You know, to say Taco Bell's the full blame for it, I don't think is really acceptable. Now, back to our traffic report. What was interesting that the traffic engineer, unknowns to me, was looking at the parking issue. When the queue gets up to 9, he was looking at, do people actually park? He found that people just actually drove off, that the 6 parking stalls we were talking about were adequate and a number of spaces were open. Let me backstep. I think one of the things that bothered the city that I heard of first was the fact that we wanted to cut this restaurant from 50 seats down to 25 seats. There are a couple reasons for that. One of the main reasons is nobody's eating in restaurants anymore. So we did a count. Our traffic engineer did a count of diners in that restaurant. And I think the most was 12.
Right, I agree with you. I'd want to thank you for doing that traffic study. That was excellent. It really did answer a lot of the questions I had. I thought it was terrific, the work that they went to for that.
I'm very happy with Grant.
Appreciate that.
I think that he did a great job. I can't take credit for it. The fact that there are a couple reasons we wanted to cut the seating down. One, we have to make our bathrooms now ADA compliant, which are a lot bigger than they are in a 1984 building. So we had to, instead of pushing into the kitchen, which is a small kitchen right now, we took up some of the dining room seating that is off to the side. The other issue with it is that seating is off to the side and it's not visible from staff at the front counter. So they can't monitor what's going on in that area. So this has been a concern of not just this restaurant, but a number of restaurants not wanting to put their staff at risk of having to go monitor what's going on over in this section of the restaurant. So it never was a fact that we wanted to increase loading on the drive-through lane. In fact, we know from the report that there will not be more increased traffic going through the drive-through lane. I want to say that Taco Bell, 80% of their business, or around 80%, goes through that drive-through lane. If we lose that drive-through lane, we're going to lose the restaurant. There's no way to make it financially feasible to have a restaurant there without a drive-through for Taco Bell. That's not a threat, that's just a fact of business. If we can't make it work, we're not going to work at a loss. So we looked at the design, we worked with the Hangtown Village people, came up with a design we thought worked. It gave us our 9-car stack. We then sent it out and gave it to the traffic engineer and said, please go out there and analyze this. And he did, I think in his summaries, excellent job. What surprised me in the summary was that people would not stay in line, they would actually just leave. They wouldn't park their cars. So each to their own. Lost a thought. I'll find it later. So we really hope that we can finalize the approval of this and move on with our lives and repaint the exterior. We've worked with Hangtown Village and they've looked at it and we've worked out the colors. It wasn't of Taco Bell colors, but we're trying to match the center's colors. And I think that it came out nicely. I think that Hangtown, I won't speak for them, but they've had positive feedback from them on it. So we've done a lot of work over the last almost 2 years, and we just hope we can put this to bed and just get it approved and get the findings that we need. I do say that the traffic engineer, or I'm sorry, the city engineer has had some insightful things to tell us. We've worked around it, we've worked with it, but we have this one item, and you heard it tonight. We don't know what they want for a management program. And we've been working on this since September. We've come up with the best that we're willing to do. We will put it in writing. It'll be posted in the restaurant. But we do not want employees going out there directing traffic or enforcing, because it's just a bad situation. It's happened in other restaurants where they've tried it, and it's not turned out well in some cases. So I would appreciate the time to answer any questions you may have about it, but I've been living this project for the last 2 years, and I think it's a tight site. We know that, and we've done the best we can on this and come up with a solution we think works. We've got signs out there that says, you know, don't encumber the path of travel. We've added I know. The two spaces really in question are the two that's against the building. And when the drive-through lane backs
Right,
up,
currently the ADA and the adjacent.
Yeah, you can't get in those spaces anyway. And by law, we had to have path from the building to the street. So by doing so, we had to dedicate a parking spot and a loading zone and a ramp. So we lost basically a space out there. A little bit better in the space. We were able to move things around a little bit and get a space back. But would we like to have more parking? Sure. But it seems to be working at this point.
I do have a question about the new ADA space.
Yes.
But before I get into questions for you, first I'm sure that Ms. Kendrick has explained to you the delay, and on behalf of the city, I'm sure she's apologized, but I just want to reiterate that we are very understaffed, and we apologize when I hear the timeline on this. Absolutely, you are. I understand your frustration. You need to move forward, and we are with you. We want to make this a successful project. So first off, I want to thank you for your patience, and also both for your statements as well as Mr. Thomas's, that how willing you are to continue to work with the city to get us just, I think we're on the 1 yard line with this project, and I think we're very close to getting all of our concerns addressed, as well as getting this Taco Bell greatly improved. So thank you again for your cooperation and your patience. So my first question, and I'm sure the other commissioners have a lot of questions, so if we could go ahead and jump into that, because I'm just dying to ask you about this project.
I don't know if there's anybody else that wants to talk about it before you.
One of your other project team, if you, okay. Do you have a presentation, or would you just like to answer our questions? Go ahead and step up to the podium, please, so that we can get you on.
Andrew Hennon, I'm one of the owners of J.A. Sutherland.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Andrew Hennon, Hennan. We've been paying the bill for the last 2 years to work through this. We love Placerville. We love being here. I think one of the upsides of when these get to this point is that we start meeting people. I'll get a notice out tomorrow to my team, make sure they understand the parking parameters. I wasn't aware of it. That's not a problem. If Placerville has an honorary Ring of Fame, Fred belongs on it. Fred is I don't know what Fred's job is. I'm sorry? Greeter. So he manages the shopping center, but he's the cohesive part between all the property owners and my shift leaders, assistant managers, directors, VPs, all of them know Fred by name.
Well, we had 2 friends.
Okay, well, two's better than one then. I just know of one, and he's the guy that tells this needs to be fixed, and here's the bill for it, and you guys always have a great reference. Anyways, just wanted to say thank you. This has been a long time. We're looking forward to maximizing our business, but also create a few more jobs for people here in Placerville, and we've got a great team there. But thank you very much.
Great. Okay. Well, if you're...
And before we go further, I would just like to say, we've enjoyed working with your staff. The delays are sometimes because of staffing, but you went through a switchover of a lot of people that was right in the middle of when we were trying to do this. So we understand that. I mean, people leave, people come, but I think that the staff is trying to pick it up the best they can.
Great. Actually, I do have some questions about the project as presented, but I think that, we'll be looking at this again shortly. If Ms. Kendrick stated that there's an option for us to have in writing an agreement among all the parties to continue this for not to exceed 90 days. It sounds like that's something that you're willing to enter into with the city. And then she said as soon as our next meeting, we could go over a final plan that addresses the city's concerns. So you're willing in principle to move forward on that basis?
Well, I think that we're willing to come to your next meeting with either findings against or for the project. And that has to happen anyway.
Okay.
And hopefully we can work out
all right.
The wording on what staff is looking for as far as this queue management plan.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't, then we'll just bring it back here and just make the same plea.
Yeah, I think I'm going to save my questions about the project to any other rest of you have a question about the project that's before us, and keep in mind that there are likely to be some adjustments made in the near future. So, Alyssa?
I just had one quick question regarding the queue management plan, and it notes the idea of adding additional equipment and staff inside the restaurant to help when the lines get quite long in those anticipated times. Is the building realistically able to hold that larger capacity? Is that planned within the remodel?
Yes, what we have a cook line, and then we have what we call the pack line. The pack line is usually worked from one side. We have a two-sided pack line that when it gets busy, you open up the other side. But at a minute 30, minute 20, minute 30 is pretty quick, but that'll improve when we realize that there's a line queuing, that we can open up that other line and then increase the pass-through timing.
Thank you.
And, you know, something that occurred to me, looking at that queuing management plan, Taco Bell doesn't want its customers sitting out in a line waiting for their food. It's kind of puts some pressure on you to optimize your system so that wait times are reduced to a minimum. Obviously, things are going to happen. So, yeah, it is in your best interest to implement these efficiencies that are described in the project proposal. So that's not something that had occurred to me until just hearing all of you speak about, you know, the importance of being a good Taco Bell franchisee.
Yeah. The other thing in that management plan, if I could quickly, we, right now, our DoorDash type orders go through the drive-through lane. We're proposing a parking spot at certain hours that's dedicated to DoorDash to park there and not in the drive-through lane. So hopefully that'll cut down on the number of cars also.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Moss? Mr. Moss, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Since I'll just go ahead and go over my final points. And again, any of you have questions for him? You're willing to work with the city to resolve these improvements for wayfindings and improve signage and striping so that it's obvious where the queuing is allowed and where it's prohibited?
We show that on our plans now. On our last plans, it was requested both a graphic and a written narrative. We provided both, but the narrative, I guess, didn't cover 100% of what staff wanted.
Okay, excellent. That's great. Anyone else have a question at this time? We'll ask you to go ahead and, Alyssa, you have something?
Sorry, yeah, I'll get into the details of this later, but curious if you'd be open to adding more exterior lighting.
That's not before us tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, let's keep it to.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair.
What's, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Can I answer your
Especially since they
question real
might be
quickly?
coming back.
Yeah.
Okay.
We are at the max that the state energy code allows us to light the exterior, and they keep dropping it down. So we will be installing what the state energy code will allow us to install.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, please go ahead and take a seat, and we'll open it up for public comment and ask you to keep your comments to around 3 minutes. And welcome back to the podium. Thank you for your patience.
Judy Puttoff, Puba Properties. I wanted to express appreciation to Mr. Moss and his team for the cooperation that they have and their sensitivity to my concerns. There was a reference made to the color. What we started out with had artwork on the building. You know, our whole family are artists. And I said to Philip, you know, that's going to sit on there and it's going to fade, and you remodel what, like every 15 years? I can't even imagine what it's going to look like. Well, all of that got removed. My objections were listened to. I appreciated that. And the last that they came back to me was, what if we use the colors of the center? Be still, my heart, you know. So I have very much appreciated the response to my concerns, and have enjoyed working with them. And I really ask for your consideration of this project and your help in getting it moved forward. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments.
Good evening. Yes, it does sound like you're right outside the end zone there with this group that are working together. It's just interesting. So I was unaware that this was a standalone parcel. And I guess my question before I'll continue on is the Starbucks parcel, a separate parcel. But just looking at, my question would be, if this came before the city today, could it be approved as built with the parking that's on, everything that's on site? looks like their garbage is off-site, their employee parking is off-site, there's not enough parking to meet customers. Would this be approved? Would the traffic circulation, would this be approved today in 2026? If not, then how do you fix it? They might even be able to negotiate a lot line adjustment either towards Starbucks or towards the pizza place so that they can meet, because the city has standards that could spell out the minimum number of parking for this parcel given staff and customers. I really like the idea of a separate spot for the food delivery. That's going to reduce this queue. That helps. Because my first thought was, well, just eliminate that driveway that heads towards both queues, Starbucks and Taco Bell, but then when I heard it was a separate parcel, they have to have their egress. So I thought, well, what if they shifted the egress closer to the shopping center sign? Try and push that Taco Bell queue instead of back out onto Broadway, push it in front of the Taco Bell store in some way. Just from that line, it looks like they have an egress on the east side. So
Yeah, there's it was part of the package, the easements for both process, and it's described in there, so you're on the right track.
yeah, because the original conditions of approval, it sounded like the discussion was to have the entrance to the Taco Bell drive-through come in by that shopping center sign on the bank side. And that's interesting that there's a standing condition of approval from 1983 that the intersection be a four-way stop, which has never happened. So I agree, for liability reasons, they can't have staff come out and ask people to not back out onto the street. What if they could place a sensor in that spot that I'm calling the Q driveway that would send some kind of a signal to inside the building? And I don't know if somebody could just, something could happen at that point instead of, they're so busy, if cars are backing out on the street, they're so busy they can't do anything else. So I don't know if that would help. I don't know if moving the Taco Bell queue line closer to the Taco Bell building would free up, I guess, the driveway towards the dumpster, and then you could get more parking spots as parallel parking, or those could even be DoorDash lineups that a runner takes out to them. Striping is definitely going to help. I like the do not block areas. So I guess that's a legal question, is can that driveway feeding the two queues be closed and force Starbucks queue from the west and Taco Bell queue from the east?
Okay.
And keep it off the
And
road.
can you wrap up your comments? We're approaching the 4-minute mark right now, Mr. Drobish. It's optional, and so if you would state your name for the record, at least one member of the public has requested that.
Michael.
Thank you. Okay, anything else, Mr. Drobish?
No, those are just some.
Okay, appreciate your insights, and since the applicant and the owners are here, they've heard your suggestions, and there are things that can be taken into consideration in further working with staff. Any other members of the audience? Everyone's spoken. All right. I'll close the public comment portion of the hearing and bring it back for consideration by the Planning Commission. So, you know, I'm very encouraged what we've heard tonight. It's my preference to consider option 3, this essentially is a continuance to April 7th. I think, as I said before, it sounds like we're very close to resolving the outstanding issues. How do the rest of you feel?
Yes, I agree. I am not in favor of denial. I'm definitely in favor of continuance because I do think we're really close. And it sounds like a lot of the things that I wrote down in my review, I really rolled around in all of this and putting all the pieces together and kind of trying to fully wrap my brain around it. And it sounds like you guys have come to the understandings that I saw as being copacetic to get everything working. My notes, just for the record and with regards to the issues at hand, were with what was stated tonight with regards to the side. Big fan of that Taco Bell. So I've been in there. I know what you're talking about with the side seating and everything. That I agree that that is a reasonable request, and I don't think that it will increase the drive-through because I wouldn't pull up there and know how many people are inside. So it wouldn't deter me from going. It wouldn't really impact my decision. I thought that the traffic study was great and really highlighted that overall it is sufficient, especially having I like the drive-through tucking in and eliminating those spots. I agree that those are really ineffective if there are cars there, and it only reduces by 3 spots, which while in ratio is big, I think in reality is not impactful to the overall operation of the building. I did have a question about how it's been analyzed by the city or observed with regards to who it is with Starbucks, which I also think will help delineate tucking this in a little bit more between the 2 buildings and kind of where the problem might lie if there is a problem. As I stated earlier, this was not triggered by a city review saying we have a huge problem here. It's been a response to the application. So I feel like if it was a huge, huge problem, then the city would be presenting it rather than us responding in this way. The complaints and the traffic incidences I thought were, well, I didn't see the complaints in the 3 that were presented. I didn't think had a large impact on my decision to approve this. The reciprocal parking agreement, I was able to review that, I think fairly sufficiently and see that it sounds like they're all in agreement that that is in place and sufficient for their needs. This is a fast restaurant, so I actually think it's a really good fit for the constraints of the site. They have a minimal menu, and it's also, everything kind of is the same ingredients going in different ways. So I think that other types of businesses would have probably a larger issue than what we have faced with the Taco Bell menu offerings. And when it was approved in 1983, they talked about clarifying the total circulation plan before moving ahead, but here we are 40 years later, so I feel like if it was a really massive issue, then we should have already been hearing about it or addressing it, or it should be more clear. So I do think that this update is sufficient and an improvement on what has been happening for the last 40 years. They talked about facing the driveway a different direction. That failed, and I think that this is the best outcome that could be for the limitations of the site. I had questions about the stack numbers, but I think those will be fleshed out by the staff report, and that the owners agreed to it. That was good, and I think that's kind of all of my stuff that I
Excellent
wanted
summary.
to cover.
You hit
So
on some things that had come to my mind as well.
yeah, so like I said, I am in support of, and then that was my one question that I knew I had that I didn't write down. So seeing the email thread today, when I was reviewing it, I thought of the idea of putting a sign, at least as a potential measure of saying do not stack onto Broadway. And then I saw in the email that that was included as a potential option. So I don't know where that is in reality or if that is in the plan, but that came to my mind as a potential idea to at least tell people don't go out there. Whether it's effective or not, that's to be determined. But again, we do have the right as the city to approach this if it becomes such a huge issue that we have realized it is a major problem. And right now, I haven't seen evidence of that. So I thought that in the email from Sam, I believe this is the email. It's a bunch of forwards, so it was kind of hard to follow, but that maybe doing at least a do not stack onto Broadway. But I thought all of the rest of the arrows, opening up that drive-through to the back couple parking spots that are in the reciprocal parking agreement, I thought was good, and could maybe people will get to the drive-through and say, I can't pull to the right, go around, park, and go in. So it could potentially increase their availability for people to go in and park. So
If I could interject, what I like about this, since you're talking about that, those arrows that go by the trash enclosure, and then there's a driveway into the rest of the Hangtown Village Shopping Center. You know, this is anecdotal, but I saw on Google Earth when I was just taking a look at this property, the exact problem that this is going to resolve, which is what you just said. There's cars that are blocking the current ADA access parking spot and the additional one, but it also blocks people from going through, and so it's a kind of a cut through. It's not the most obvious, but you know, those of us who know it's there, I've gone through there to access those stores that are to the south side. So this, you know, clears that up and allows for cars to continue past Taco Bell. In addition to benefiting Taco Bell, it opens up and improves circulation and access to those other stores. So I think that, you know, we're getting an improvement on two levels there. Also, what I saw on Google Earth, I noticed today in the trip generation study, we keep calling it the Q study, whatever its title is, trip generation study, you know, it showed exactly the same thing. And again, I just want to thank you for doing that. I think the engineer did an excellent job, not only showing us the improvement that can be gained by this, but also bolstering your argument of reducing the seating inside and thereby reducing the number of parking spots that you have to provide by about half. So I just wanted to interject that comment about the circulation.
Absolutely. And to the two final points that I'll make is...
I'm sorry.
No,
We're
you
done.
did. You were fine. Those came to my mind because I wrote down new points when I was listening and thinking through, which I do think that having the employee agreement so that we don't have long-term parking taking up the parking because, as we've stated, it's an underparked or, you know, there's not sufficient parking in terms of actual numbers. I do think it's got a lot of parking, which is good, but reducing permanent, you know, long-term parking, I guess I should say, from employees, that sounds reasonable and like a really good mitigation thing for eliminating 3 spots, but then also ensuring that we're not having long time parking. And the second thing being to really work through the DoorDash thing, because I do think that that is probably one of the easiest things to tackle. If you can identify a safe place for DoorDashers to go receive their food, however that goes down, and then leave without increasing the parking, the drive-through, and also having it really clear for them. So there's kind of a good system in place, right? When they come in, that probably the same person does it a lot. So they'll know, you know, where to go and how to shoom in and out and everything. So again, I'm sensitive to the constraints of this. It was approved on this property and a long time ago, and so I would like to see it continue to serve our community, benefit our community, and I think it's a good fit for the unique property. So I think that's it.
Well, I agree with the comments that have already been made, and I also just wanted to state that I agree that that traffic study sufficiently demonstrated, you know, or justified the reduction in the seating and the reduction in parking. And I think that this really looks like it will improve that circulation. And with this better delineation between the Starbucks drive-through queuing or stacking and the Taco Bell, I'm curious if we'll see, you know, that we don't have that problem of backing up into Broadway. So, and I also wanted to restate Vice Chair Lepper's comment that I think it would be a really good idea to just make sure that, I think that DoorDash option's a really good item to address for the queuing, and so just making sure that that's adequately highlighted in your queuing plan.
Well, I didn't want to be overly simplistic, but what I gather is that we have exceptionally well-managed property, we have a very well-managed business, and the staff has done their job, so no matter what's transpired up to this point, what I heard is that all 3 parties are prepared to work together. They've heard our suggestions.
Your microphone's on the other side of your shoulder. There
Hi.
we go.
So that's why I'd like to see a continuance, so with good faith, they can all go forward and come back with something in writing that we could dispose of in a matter of a few minutes.
Right.
Thank you.
I agree with many of the statements that have been made today. No concerns about like the interior remodel. Realistically, the stacking doesn't change much in my personal experience. I've been there many times where the Taco Bell line is completely full. I could keep a Taco Bell open on my own, let's be realistic. But often the line is completely full. I've never seen it stack onto Broadway, more so that it would go towards the Starbucks. My one concern is that by taking away those parking spots that are along the building, I have been there multiple times where there hasn't been parking available and I've had to park over by Starbucks. That's going to be increasing foot traffic across the drive-through, which, as stated by the city, there's enforcement issues, safety concerns. This is also a parking lot that has a lot of foot traffic from teenagers in the evenings. I see a lot of traffic congestion in a little area with much pedestrian risk. So that is why I had brought up the lighting earlier. It's a very dark area, a lot of teenagers hanging out, and anything we could do to increase the safety would be helpful.
Excellent observation. Thank you. All right. Any other discussion?
No, the last comment I'll make is I really liked the brief look that I had at the colors that they had selected. I thought they were really nice, and I thought it really, we always do try to keep sort of a nature feel in our town and really, keep things feeling quaint and nice, and I thought that the colors that I saw briefly in the email today really met that. So I think hopefully when it comes back before us, I think that'll be an easy approve as well. And I appreciated Taco Bell's willingness to do that because I know sometimes it's hard with larger corporations to move away from traditional colors, if you will. So I really like that they were willing to do that. And at this point, I'd be willing to, just go ahead.
Well, I guess on that, I saw somewhere written that the color was teal, but it looks more sage green to me in the image. So maybe when it comes back before us, if there's a way to get a sample so we can actually understand the color, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Oh, no problem. Paint names, you never know. Okay, so at this point, I'd be willing to make a motion unless anyone else has any further discussion.
We can open it for further discussion. Sorry, what was that?
My motion is it be continued until the next meeting.
Kirk Smith's making a motion that we, and let's make sure that we are taking option 3, directing the applicant to work with city staff.
Yeah, I'd like them to have the opportunity to work with city staff on the timeline.
Right, that's option 3. Okay, and that's your motion?
That's number 3.
Okay. So we have, Catherine, are you seconding the motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a,
Chair, if I may, I have talked with the city engineer, and we've determined that we can bring it on our next meeting in April.
we can?
So if we can
prefer a date
continue
certain?
it to a date certain, that would be fantastic. Also, the applicant had a suggestion that I'll propose to you is approval and to work with staff on getting appropriate conditions of approval. So he wanted.
Work with staff to get
So approve the project with the understanding that you work with staff to get the conditions of approval ironed out.
As if it wouldn't come back to us?
Right. That,
I think we could move pretty quickly on it, as quickly as we could approve it on a consent calendar as an item, right? Or
We
right?
have to open it up for a public hearing if it comes back to us.
Just to explain what I had in mind. I think the business people know what they're doing. We have people who are artists. They have perceptions about the color palette. So if it's moss green, sage green, I can live with it if they can live with it. So I just wanted to make it simple. And if we come back next time and they have a package for us ready to go, it shouldn't take us very long. That's what I had in mind. I don't like the idea of approving something that I haven't seen, but I have enough good faith in their good faith that they're going to have a package for us when we return at our next meeting. That was
That's the
my
motion. And
thoughts.
so you wanted to keep your motion
Just
to...
as simple as
To
possible.
move with option 3, to direct the applicant to work with city staff to resolve the project concerns.
Exactly.
And then come back.
I can clarify that whole situation. We had received the colors from the center and the paint store that they received their colors from, and we're matching those colors. So they gave us all that information, and we're just using the same colors, same paint store.
Thank you for clarifying that.
I don't have any concerns about what's coming back to us. I guess my question to staff would be, under a normal circumstance, would it be?
I think you're hearing from us. I agree with Mr. Smith. I would prefer to see the final of what we're actually approving. It's not that I don't trust you. It's just that is our typical process of looking at the final package. We've taken public comment, and it's our responsibility to make sure that it is all addressed.
It's unusual. I have not experienced that in my 28-year career, but again, that the applicant was just wanting me to put that option out to the Planning Commission if they so chose to do.
Okay, thank you. So we have our motion. So our motion is a continuance to come back with the final, and including the conditions of approval on April 7th.
I reference the language of option 3.
Okay. And
Catherine, second.
a second by Catherine. So any other additions to that motion, discussion?
No, like I said, I think this will be very simple. I think we've all expressed, as well as the applicants and staff, I think the cohesion here seems pretty obvious to me. I'd be surprised if there was not that when it comes back. And I don't see any issues, but I think just following our normal methods sound good. But I don't see any problems. And I
comfortable with
I look forward to, quickly and efficiently being able to have this move forward.
Okay. Please call the vote.
Commissioner Sylvester?
Aye.
Commissioner Lepper?
Aye.
Commissioner Stratton?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Chair Keeney?
Aye. So that's 5-0, approval for the continuance. And so again, thank you for your patience, your cooperation. I think we've got a good project and close to solving a problem we've seen, and thank you very much. Okay. Do you want to take a 5-minute break? All right. It's 7:53. We will adjourn for 5 minutes, reconvene right around 8 o'clock.
I like your striped top.
My mom's 89. But she won't, she goes out to the interaction with people, not kiosks. So, you know, I tell the folks that are around my community, you always want me to hire your kids in our restaurants. However,
I've driven away from a long queue, but then I realized going inside.
Almost like an ad, right there.
Yeah.
I'm in
Okay,
Give me
I'm
time
going
to
to, I'm calling our meeting back to order at 8:03. If everyone, please take your seat. Thank you very much. Good to see you again. We have just a few more items on our agenda, so calling us back to order. Moving on, we have no continued items, so we'll go on to new business, item 11, which is the 2025 Housing Element Annual Progress Report, Cycle 6. This is to receive and file the Annual Housing Element Annual Progress Report and provide staff with any comments, if any, to be forwarded to the City Council. And I will turn this over to you again, Ms. Kendrick, for the staff report.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission receive the 2025 Annual Housing Element Progress Report and adopt the attached resolution recommending that the City Council accept for its submission to HCD and the Governor's Office of Planning and Research by the April 1st deadline. This report fulfills California Government Code Section 65400 and demonstrates that the city continues to make strong, measurable progress on our certified 2021 to 2029 housing element. Some key highlights, and we do note that there was a reference to, there was a difference between the staff report and the table regarding residential building permits. So we did issue 116 residential building permits, and that will be corrected on the tables. 8 ADUs and 26 single-family dwelling units, and 82 multifamily affordable units at Middletown. 23 certificates of occupancy were issued for ADUs and 19 single-family homes. 2 major affordable projects are now under construction, which are Mallard Lane, which is 72 units, and Middletown at 82, adding 154 units at the 30 to 60% AMI. Our vacant land inventory still exceeds RENA's needs in every income category, and we've adopted ordinances in 2025 that bring us into full compliance with the AB 2162 supportive housing and expand residential care facilities. We secured significant state and federal funding, including a $400,000 permanent local housing allocation loan, implemented fee deferrals for affordable projects per state law, and continued strong fair housing outreach and reasonable accommodation processing. Areas where progress has been limited, primarily due to staffing and budget constraints, include no housing rehabilitation projects and delay on a few ordinance updates that are now scheduled for 2026. These will be addressed in next year's report. The annual progress report is an administrative activity and is exempt from CEQA under Section 15061B3. No public comments were received on this item, so at this time, I'd like to ask that you find the report was prepared in compliance with state law, accurately reflects our 2025 efforts, and recommend that the City Council accept the 2025 Annual Housing Element Progress Report so we can maintain our substantial compliance with the housing element law and avoid any risk of HCD revocation. This concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. One, is this a time-sensitive report? Does it need to be sent in
By April 1st.
by April, okay, I missed that, April 1st. Okay. And my other comment is that there's no mention in this progress report of the program that was the subject of our first item tonight. I think that's program A3. There's no mention in here.
Right, because this is a 2025 report for everything we did in the year 2025.
Right, so we received that letter of inquiry in December of 2025 and asking for, our status. I think my concern is that this report is a little, I won't say, I think I would like this report to point out that staff was not able to make progress on that program in 2025, even though there's deadlines to be met. And I think my concern is that that's important for City Council to know that staff is working as hard as they could, but this fell behind, and just keep that in their awareness. This is your staff report. Is that not the process? I guess I just don't want the City Council to think that everything's going smooth sailing.
Right.
You're actually struggling for just that one program. It sounds like everything else is in good order.
Well, like I said, we've got the 2 other sites for that program that'll be coming to your next meeting. And we are working on some other items, so we are trying to plug away at those, but there are some things that we're falling behind on. So, what we can do in our staff report to City Council is identify how many programs we have, which ones are completed, which ones are not, which ones are in progress, so that you kind of get a higher level view of where we stand.
So in your comments, so what's before us tonight is to recommend that this be passed along to City Council, and you could include a comment from the Planning Commission, like the one I just...
Absolutely.
That could be part of your, as opposed to adding it to the report as written.
Well, I have to do a separate report in a different format for the City Council, so I would add it in as a comment
Okay.
from the Planning Commission.
All right, that would be one comment that I have. Any other questions or comments for staff regarding this report?
I thought that was a good catch about the A3 program.
Okay, thank you.
Program A3.
I just, I realize that no progress was made, but let's just go ahead and keep that in our awareness. Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
Just to be clear, so what's being requested is we approve this report for it to be forwarded to the City Council, period.
Right.
Correct?
Recommending, so the resolution, that's attachment A, resolution recommending that the City Council accept this housing element progress report for the 21 to 29 housing element.
I so moved.
Okay. So do you have any questions for
No.
staff? Okay. Alyssa, any comments or questions? No. Okay. I'll open it up for comments. Mr. Drobish, do you have any comments on the staff report for the housing element?
Yeah. I'd like it to be reported to City Council and the state so they can mull it over. How much funding did the City of Placerville not receive due to fee waivers or any other manner to facilitate state mandates for housing or other development actions? Just a ballpark figure.
Is that something you can answer?
That I don't know. I mean, there are so many unfunded mandates that
Take too much time.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'm sorry, that's not actually relevant. You don't have any other questions about or comments on this? Okay. All right. Great. So no other comments. Let's see. All right. Can I have a motion for us to move forward?
That we adopt the report and forward it to the City Council.
So I have a motion for Mr. Smith to follow the recommendation as described on page 2. receive and direct staff? That's your motion?
Please.
Okay. We have a motion, a second from Ms. Stratton. So just to clarify, the motion is receive and direct staff to submit the 2025 annual housing element progress report for the 2021 to 2029 housing element to City Council. Okay. Anything else in there? Okay. No other wording in there? I'm sorry, what was that?
I would accept that wording.
That is your motion, is to follow, you said to follow the recommendation. Okay, I just want to make sure that we had the wording correct on the motion and the, okay. Any other discussion? All right, please call a vote.
Commissioner Stratton?
Here, aye.
Commissioner Sylvester?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Lepper?
Aye.
Chair Keeney?
Aye, 5-0, thank you all. So move forward with. Next, we move to item 12, matters from commissioners and staff. We'll start with staff reports, 12.1. Item for staff to update those in attendance of status of upcoming meetings and recent actions taken by City Council.
Great. So for upcoming meetings, for your April 7th on deck, we have the 2 sites for the housing opportunity overlay. We are looking at potentially doing a Brown Act and conflict of interest training with the city attorney. And we are still looking at potentially bringing a recommendation on how we can streamline some processes, but also make some processes more public. So it's just kind of looking at what we approve administratively and what is approved quasi-judicially by the Planning Commission, and how we can work to kind of make the process easier but still maintain, you know, the level of scrutiny that's needed. So we'll have that for City Council. So there's been quite a few meetings since our last meeting. On January 13th, we brought forward the accessory dwelling unit revisions, and that did pass after a lot of discussion. We did the Title 7-110 update, and that's related to trash collection. So it was dealing with, it requires property owners to have trash, but it didn't really address tenants. And so we've had some issues where a tenant isn't getting trash service, so that, you know, there's issues and concerns with that. And so it was changing some language in there just to, it could be the tenant as well, because it's the responsibility of the tenant. So we did bring that forward. We brought forward the vacant building registry, and we did the housing element programs B2 and B8 second readings. So that was a win for our housing element implementation. We also did bring forward an appeal from the Indian Pizza Bites location. So they have got some illegal signage out there, and they have been cited, and that this was an appeal of a fine. And so the City Council did discuss that, and they did waive a portion of the fine, and then directed them to, you know, work with the city. So we're working on that. They're working on a submittal to the city for their signage, but we are still looking at it from both an enforcement area, and then also, you know, making sure that we get timely compliance. And then we did an update to the building code. That happens every 3 years. So that was based on the state. For our January 27th meeting, we did an update on our November and December stats. We did the second reading for the mandatory waste, which I was talking about, and our vacant building registry. We had the second reading for our ADU ordinance, and we did the competitive, the CPLHA, or, you know, I get those acronyms mixed up, but it was for a resolution for the city to support or basically acknowledge that a project was receiving money from the state. So that is on Middletown. And there was a discussion about Old City Hall, so there's been ongoing discussions. There was a meeting there today that I was unable to attend, but lots of discussions about the Old City Hall and how we can, you know, get that moving forward to where it can be productive. On February 10th, we had brought forward the A-frame signs and the hosted short-term rentals. Those items were continued to make some of the changes that the City Council requested. We did have them scheduled to go for February 24th, but we wanted to have some more legal review. So those are scheduled to go to our next council meeting next week. And I do have updates from the city attorney, so those will be going again for a first reading. We also are working on a planning fee update, which will be going to our next city council meeting to update our fees, which haven't been updated since 2008. And we did a resolution for Jamboree. So I know the Armory project was mentioned earlier today. So the state has decided not to move forward with that project. And so because Jamboree put all this investment in trying to get it entitled, they worked out, negotiated with the state where they can get a partial refund for the monies that they expended, but they needed a resolution from the city. So that project is dead. It's not going to happen. And they're, like I said, Jamboree's working with the state to get some refunds. So interesting stuff. For the February 24th, we brought forward the January stats. And one thing I'm happy to report on, it isn't related to Planning Commission, but it's related to Development Services, is we have a request for information form set up on our website. So that is, or request for investigation. And so instead of filing a code complaint, you request for investigation. It's investigated, and if it's determined to be a code case, then we'll create one. But we have data now that we can track. So I think it's really helpful that we're kind of utilizing that, and we can tell, you know, what the trends are. You know, typically it's trash and accumulation or unpermitted structures, but I'm just excited about that because, you know, data is great. And I think that's all that I have regarding meetings, although I do want to point out, I sent you the 2026 meeting schedule. So I was asked to cancel the June 2nd and November 3rd Planning Commission meetings due to the elections. So because this facility will be utilized. But I have put the June 16th and November 17th meetings back on there. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. And again, as I update this meeting schedule, I'll provide it to you so that you kind of know what's on deck and what's coming up. And it helps keep me on track. Like I have the general plan policy document review on August 4th, and just wanting to make sure that, you know, we can kind of see the big picture and what we're looking at, you know, for this, you know, how many items we have and what's coming up. That's all I can think of right now. I am in staff report mode. Like
That's
just
plenty. Wow.
Yeah,
A lot of
so
work.
I gotta
got to get my city council one. We've been doing a lot of stuff to try and streamline services and development services. So, and we're getting a lot of positive feedback. So we are trying to make the process easier. We want to work with businesses. Prime example is the item tonight. I think that really kind of showed, a willingness on all parties. But again, we're trying to find solutions. So that's all I have.
Fantastic work. Thank you very much for the extensive report. Go ahead, Kurt.
I would just add that the feedback I get from knowing people on the Main Street is what you've described. The effort that you've made, the intent to be supportive of businesses and to be streamlining the process is widely received, and it was refreshing to hear. I'll put it in writing, but that's what I've heard from people.
And actually an update, because I know at the last meeting we talked about the A-frame signs, and I did meet with the Merchants on Main group. I believe it was the next day or the day after our meeting.
You had that scheduled.
And that went very well. There was probably at least 20 people there. We did it at Capelli's, and I provided copies of the draft ordinance, and people had questions, but it was really great. And it just said everybody's not going to come out happy, but we're trying to address the issue. So I think that it was well received, and I've been stopping in and talking to merchants, and so they were like, "Oh, you're the sign girl, yeah." So, I don't want to be known as a sign girl, but anyways, it went well, and it's nice to engage with our businesses down here because we want them to be successful.
Yes, excellent.
I just want to echo Kirk's statement that I just really sincerely appreciate all of the effort and hard work that you've been putting in, and it really is increasing all of the efficiency and the knowledge and the power that we have to move forward with knowledge. So I just sincerely appreciate your hard work.
Okay. Wonderful. We'll move on to, let's see, 12.2, Planning Commission Matters. And that's 12.2.1 is our historic design guidelines. And first we have the work plan, and Alyssa, I'll just turn it over to you to walk us through or make any comments. It's self-explanatory. Again, I want to thank you for keeping us on track with this. So anything you want to point out to us?
Yeah, no big updates this month. I think we're probably getting used to seeing this, but just added the the research that Commissioner Sylvester provided at the last meeting. So.
Okay.
I have a question. I know we've gone through this before, but can we make an update to this in the meeting? Or I have to send it beforehand, right?
You can make verbal updates, but if you're submitting a document,
okay, this
as
would
long
just
as
be
we
a
have that for the
verbal
public,
update.
though,
Okay. Well, I guess I just wanted to make a suggestion because the way that this is, I think that item number 4D.2 is kind of evolved from developing basically a cheat sheet of the Secretary of Interior standards to more of a full-blown design review guideline document. So that's something that Chair Keeney and I have been working on. So,
Based
based
on the research that you've been doing, all those documents that you pulled together, yeah. So design review guidelines, you would prefer that we call it that as opposed to?
I think so too, because I think a cheat sheet suggests. I think originally, or at least my understanding was that we were trying to kind of come up with just a very quick and dirty just checklist, and then through the research that we've done, which will kind of be I think the next item will help explain this a little bit too, and just the need to have so much background, and there's so much existing information and so much history of work done on this that we really need that comprehensive document that lays out everything and is just a one-stop shop for someone that is either applying for something related to historic building or for the Planning Commission to rely on in our review process.
I'd like to also ask that for D1, this is really old, develop standard findings. With my research, that's not really, I don't think that's suitable anymore, and so I think I'd like to have that changed. I'm not sure what we want to title it, or if we want to drop it. When I first put those out, I didn't get any feedback from anyone as far as the language, so it kind of is stalled out, and I'm happy to have it included in our next agenda packet if you would like to have that for review. But my thinking now is that they really should be, that should turn into a checklist. If it's something that the Planning Commission would like to move forward with, as opposed to having standard findings, I think we'd be better served having a checklist that says, did the Planning Commission, was this considered, was that considered, is this appropriate? And so it might help us clarify and streamline, make it more efficient as we go through and we make sure that we have fairly evaluated a project in a historic district. I don't know, I just feel like the standard findings, there's not standard language. Each one of our projects, it's going to be so site-specific that we're not going to be able to just say, here, take it from here, and they're going to be suitable. So how do the rest of you feel about that? Maybe just drop it, or do you want to, I can recirculate it, and we can take another look.
Well,
what would you like to do?
I wonder if that's something that will kind of come out of the design guidelines that we're developing, and we can, have the document that narrates the process, and then also have like a checklist, associated with that.
Again, so that, for Planning Commission use, really, to assure ourselves and the public that, each one of these projects gets the same level of review. That's where I was headed with it when we first talked about it.
Sounds like that's like the cheat sheet that you were referencing.
But we need the base document.
Yeah,
first.
You know what I'm saying? So once I agree, I think it will produce itself. And that would be the little, one pager, if you will, that supplements all of the deeper ones that make sure that you're hitting all of the.
Well, let's reorder it then and make 4D2, 4D1, and so we get that design review guideline, and then see if we want to develop that checklist to assure that we have the suitable findings.
I agree, that sounds very helpful. I'm curious if the planning department already has any sort of checklist when they're reviewing the submissions for historic properties?
I'd have to look into that further.
Okay.
We really haven't had anything come in that
That's right.
necessitated review.
We kind of had a flurry of them back when Pierre Rivas and it was still here. And each time, that's what got me thinking. Each time there's something on the site that needs to be addressed specifically, so that the finding has to be written to suit that.
That's one of the things that I'm bringing back with the approval process, looking at the administrative and quasi-judicial, because I noticed we don't have findings. We don't have findings, so I'm proposing findings for our conditional use permits, our site plan reviews, our subdivision maps.
We have to have them. That's what we rely on, legally rely on the findings that we adopt.
Right, but we have nothing in the code. So I'm going to try to remedy that along with.
Well, seeing what comes out of that work will help us, will guide us as we maybe can develop some findings for our historic district projects too.
And I don't have my, I don't know if you remember from the last meeting, I had that, like, one of my spreadsheets, and I don't have it with me, but I do remember seeing something in the toolbox online that was like a planning review checklist, and I know it addressed historical buildings in there, but it was, it was a pretty high level review. I think it was like, is this a historic, building or in the historic district, something like that. But
I'm going to pull up the application right now.
But that was partially why I wanted to do that, because I know that we have so many documents that touch on this subject and have already gone through the process, that we're also or at least partially gone through the process. So I wanted to get it all in one place, one document.
If it's helpful, since I'm not working on any other projects on this at the moment, I could go through the videos over the last, say, like 5 years where the Planning Commission has been considering historic properties and see what the major considerations were. I'm not promising it'll be done next month.
Well, I know
Yeah, I think you probably don't need to do that, I would say. That would be probably a lot of work for what probably could be developed within what the other two are doing to have some standard ones. It's usually pretty. I think it will bubble to the top through the other work that's happening. So I think that while I appreciate the effort, I don't think that it would be a great use of your time.
And Vice Chair Lepper had prepared a summary document pretty recently. It was like a timeline of going back that really documented the history of this process and like some of the issues that have come up and some of the guidance that we've gotten. So some of that's in there. But there will be information needs and gaps, and I think that once we get a little bit further along, well, I'm not sure how we can delegate specific tasks.
Maybe not at this point. Maybe.
Yeah, but at some point, I think we can delegate. Yeah, which is great.
I think, like I said, I think a lot of the work that you guys are describing, which I am so grateful for, that you are putting effort into, and I do think that that will, as that starts actually getting flushed out, that this will all kind of become more obvious, and there is, unique considerations, but so I don't think that it's going to be an extensive thing. I don't think that going through individual cases, I think that there will be a small group of things that pop up that.
But if you have a sleepless
I mean, if you really want to watch
Yeah.
educational.
And eventually too, this will be reviewed, we'll have public comment and input and things like that. So then a lot of those things will come through there too.
And also, maybe even the application that people fill out might kind of inform that to sort of be like that will be a subset of that extensive application that people fill out. I think will produce some of the questions, and maybe that will be reviewed at some point and streamlined. And again, I think this will all contribute to a pretty clear, smaller set of findings. Yeah. Okay, you know what I'm trying to say.
A lot has to happen over at the staff level before we get to see it. But this is the document that we have been tasked with is really for first for our use, and staff has to have their documents too. So that's something to keep in mind. Do you have any comments on the progress ongoing? Okay. And I want to open it up. Mr. Drobish, do you have any comments on item 12211?
Just one sentence on 12.1. Can the two future conflicts with planning commission meetings be addressed now and put on calendar maybe a week or 2 weeks later or before, so that an potential applicant doesn't have a 2-month gap that they can't come to the planning commission with their project? I'm not sure if even elections uses sites anymore for elections. I think it's all.
Oh, I'm sorry, you've got a comment related to the staff?
Yeah.
Okay,
12.1.
I was reading the header. Okay, I'm sorry, I got off track. So with the staff report?
In there was the mention of the conflict with elections.
Mm-hmm.
So just if that could be addressed now and clarified, even if there is a conflict, because with all vote by mail, I know that they do have sites, but usually it's up at the county. Anyway, 12211, would a flow chart for applicants on the city's website help? I don't even know, maybe it exists, where they would start by, if they have a project, they have to go through development services, punch in their address. It spits out using the data the city has now, historic, not historic. And it kind of just guides them. What are you applying for? And it sends them off SPR, other permit, and then just kind of a flow chart that just kind of shows them. And then contact information at the end is, who to speak to or where the forms are. It might be a simple way to guide people through it instead of just reading. Just a thought. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let's take a quick look at the next item, which is 12212, the National Park Service Preservation Planning Guidelines. And I think, Catherine, this was yours.
Can I just back up for a moment?
Sorry.
If I may, because I like the suggestion.
Oh, okay.
I have to admit that over the years, I've never been on that side of the process of an applicant. I've only seen what comes before us, and we have an application, but I don't see what the typical consumer, the property owner, sees when they go to the website. And I think that if you, that's a good starting point. And no matter what anybody else does, I'm going to take a look to see what it's like for the typical consumer. When you go to the website, what do you see? And that suggestion about is it a historic property, you put your address in, it tells you that it's an historic property, and then you go to some kind of flow chart that tells you the persons to contact or things of that kind. So I think that's a good approach, at least one that I would want to take to see how it works for the consumer. That's all.
Agree, but that's kind of the goal with the website, I think, that we've been working on to have it be more user-friendly. And so I agree that a flow chart is good, but also that falls right in line with at least what my intent and approach when starting this entire process was going to the website and saying, okay, it's really disjointed. What can we do to make it easier? And that goes in line, and to be fair, I've been hands-off on this topic for quite a while now, but that GIS website and everything is all part of that, of really being able to, because when I would go on there, you couldn't tell. So I think that work is in progress, and I think is a future, the ultimate goal would be exactly what's described.
So Chair Keeney asked me to present this, the preservation planning guidelines that were prepared by the National Park Service. And the reason is because it basically walks through the process for developing your process for planning historic resources planning. So, and kind of to tie into what we were talking about in development of the city's historic guidelines, I think this has been a really useful tool in that process. So what this does is it basically lays out like how you manage the planning process, some of the relevant content, like developing the historic context, goals of your planning process, and public participation, what that looks like, and other things like coordinating with management frameworks. So as part of like the research that we were doing and developing the standard of interior checklist that we'd originally started with, I used this to basically develop a series of tasks to kind of understand like how we were going to develop that checklist. And so that was where those spreadsheets that I brought to the commission last time got developed, and reviewing all the city's documents and looking specifically for things like historic context and existing information related to historic planning and preservation, and also what we've done before, and trying to find out like what are the city's goals with historic preservation. So we just wanted to present this to you so that the commission has it and the public has it, because I think that it is a really useful tool. And as we're going through developing the guidelines, this is kind of something that we can use to walk through that process and go back to as we're moving forward.
Questions, comments for Catherine?
Yes.
I thought the idea was to simplify things, and I just quickly looked at the number 98-10972. Anyway, it's the Interior Secretary's National Parks Guidelines. It's 13 pages of fine print. So the idea is to what? To summarize that? That looks kind of complicated. It's 13 pages just for that one section.
I think so. If you look at like historic review guidelines that other jurisdictions have prepared, basically what they do is they go through like how like an applicant who has a historic property, what their process is for applying for a restoration or a remodel or anything like that. And then also what are the standards that the Planning Commission or the Historic Review Commission would use to review their application. So it's not a rewrite of like the standards, but it's more of like, here's all the standards that we rely upon, and then this is how we intend to apply those standards. So it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have to maybe also go look at those separate standards.
I appreciate the research because it's been extensive. But over the years, and most of my time with this body has been on that side of the dais, people have questions about what do we need? Do I have to use banisters that were like what was before? What kind of siding, et cetera? And so they're looking for, this looks complicated. Just this one section was 13 pages of fine print. Mm-hmm. So when is the person out there in the public going to encounter those guidelines that are under the Park Service list? Am I clear? You look puzzled.
I think, yeah, I don't know that we have a timeline on our process. We're just, getting underway with the review.
Well, you asked when would an applicant encounter the National Park Service guidelines?
Yes,
Oh,
Like in their process?
correct.
I see. I think the way I envision it is, our guideline, our city's guidelines that we're developing would basically take the guidelines that we are following and say, this is how we intend to apply them. So, depending on your type of project, this is what, this could look like. So, the Park Service, the Secretary of Interior standards would be something that's referenced and described in the guidelines. But I wouldn't rewrite them in the document. Maybe
Rewrite the SOI standard?
yeah. Or you're asking about? Are you asking about this?
Yes. How would this be used?
I see. I'm sorry. I misunderstood.
How would it be used?
So this is just something that I think that we can rely on as we're developing our city guideline, the city historic review guidelines. So this lays out kind of helping to articulate what's the type of content that could go into your, the kinds of things that you would need to look at in developing your planning process, and then what that document could look like. It doesn't specify the type of documentation, it's just, helping to kind of lay out that process. So considering the historic context of your city and what does that mean or the historic context of the district or the specific, historic building, and then what does that mean for applying the standards, and then also developing goals so that you have a clear path forward for how you're developing, what your approach is for reviewing an application for. So I'm sorry, I think I had totally misunderstood your question originally. So this would not go into the guidelines. This is just helping to give direction for developing this framework that we're working on for our city.
I think, so right in the very beginning when I started approaching this project in terms of going on our website, looking at our documents and streamlining things, one of the things that I saw was we don't, so I went and researched other cities. So City of Pasadena, extensive historic homes and things. They have a, say, 200-page guideline of how they do things and what you're required to do with different kinds of properties versus other cities that have maybe a 5-page thing or a 20-page thing. So this is helping, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is helping to develop our guidelines for our city's priorities and standards, because right now that doesn't really exist for our city. It's kind of a willy-nilly, we really value our historic districts, but we can't really, it's not laid out why. It's not easy to find on the website to understand the importance of our districts, the existence of them even, and what our priorities are as a city, why this is important to us, what we expect from homeowners, and how they can approach this application process. Exactly what you're asking for is what they're doing. Don't focus on this, focus on the outcome of it, which will be a guide for Placerville describing to people what we have, how we want to preserve it, and how they can do that. Am I correct in saying that?
And you're really hitting on some important points. I think the city's made lots of attempts at that. We've tried this several times, and I think we have a lot of documentation available, but as you found, it's kind of all over the place. And I was looking at this. Yes, and this general approach, I think we all should read this and then take a look at what we do have available. But, it clearly states, what we need to focus in on and the definitions that we need to summarize. I think we may have done a lot of preliminary work. It's a matter of pulling it together, and I think what Catherine sees in this document is it helps us guide our summary of that and come away with the definitions and the intent that the city had in creating our historic districts, and just come up with a clear definition, not, as it says, not too broad, manageable units, and then make it so that people can find that on the website. That was your frustration, is where is all this? So then we're taking existing information, but we're going to synthesize it into a new document that can be found easily.
And it's specific to our city and our resources.
Because we've done a lot, people have done volunteers, we've had some consultants, we have definitions out there, but taking all these disparate documents and coming up with final statements and saying this is 2026, this is our document now. And, of course, in reference, all those documents that we already have still exist. I
think we're in agreement with what Amy's said about simplification. And she cited a couple examples. One was Pasadena, it was very long. And then you describe one of the issues, which would be to describe what's the value of having these historic districts. Every one of those reports that you looked at, and you gave 2 examples, as well as the one that Catherine looked at, do just that. In a paragraph or 2, they do state what the objectives are, the public policy interests of the local community. So why don't you start with that?
And I think we have
simple.
that. In these documents, it's just a matter of taking
experience.
the definition that one consultant came up with, and then maybe a volunteer group kind of took that and took it a little bit farther. But we need to, step 3, synthesize the information.
Right. Your experiences in editing, I've used editors all my life because I can't spell. I type all over the place, okay? But what I did first was a reporter writing columns, and the one rule is for newspapers, you want it for a 6th grade education. And when you're writing appellate briefs, frankly, it's the same thing. You make it simple. They're smart people, but you got to make it simple and interesting, which is what you do when you're writing on deadline. So that's my suggestion, is make it simple. And go back over those reports systematically and look for the component parts that answer these questions, like, why are we doing this? And it can be reduced to a paragraph.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing over the last year, well, until I stopped. But that was my approach, and why I've been, and you guys have taken up the mantle, basically, and I appreciate it, because I do feel like you're following the original brain flow that I sort of have expressed to you, which is exactly what you're saying, and what they're doing is the same thing. So first it was getting it so that you could actually find the If You're in a Historic District online on our website. And now secondary to that is establishing basically our expressed value of what we did, because this is what I've been saying all along, right? So we have these historic districts, but we have nothing really telling people why, what the importance, what's important to us as a city for them to maintain, and why that is a value of our city. So you're saying the same thing they are. I think maybe it's just in different words, but yes, that is exactly what.
The chair earlier, months ago, talked about a particular videotape that's from the Historic Commission, whatever that state agency is, and I've forgotten the acronym. But that's another thing you could have on a website, is you have a link to where there's a video that somebody can go to that simplifies it should you want more information.
Well, that's definitely what we're seeing as we look at the other cities that are farther along in their process. They refer to a lot of other cities. I mean, it's just there's so much information out there. something that you circulated earlier. Anyway, you can jump all over, actually, all over California. I was trying to focus it on California as opposed to national, but communities all across the nation are addressing preserving their historic structures. So we're moving forward. Mike Drobish has left, so I guess he doesn't have a comment about this. So it sounds like we're all, this is just an update, and appreciate the comments on that. I did want to state that as you go through, as you review this document that Catherine's provided to us, you're going to find, we have some missing information in Placerville that other communities benefit from as far as defining the property types. That, I think, number 4 is going to be a bit of a sticking point for us since we aren't the experts. I think we'll just have to use our best evaluation as far as we talk about contributing and non-contributing properties. I think that is really going to be, we're going to struggle with that, but I think we'll get to that eventually.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
No, you're good.
Well, and that was kind of where I think I landed, that we really need like a full document rather than a checklist, because we can explain what information we currently have available and then also identify where there's gaps or discrepancies that maybe can become a priority then for the city to address at some point.
That's what we need to do, is take the information we have, take it as far as we can as a planning commission, make it more useful for us and for the public. But we're going to reach a point where City Council is going to need to be updated on our progress, and let them know that we need to hire a professional to do these evaluations of the contributing, non-contributing properties, because we can only take this so far. But that's months down the line. We still have some groundwork to do, and this is a great guiding document to keep us focused on how far we can take this.
And thank you for really sticking to the contributing versus non-contributing, because when I did this, we don't have we don't have the painted ladies, right? We don't have like a specific. We're not a Victorian neighborhood. We have a lot of different types of residences in our historic districts. So I truly have been saying all along, and really feel strongly that identifying our contributing versus non-contributing properties will be vital in making sure that our key properties are preserved as they should be, while keeping the vibe, if you will, of the rest of the districts. And so I appreciate you defining that as opposed to trying to fit a style or break down the styles. I think that's a pointless effort based on the variedness of the homes in the district. So I really appreciate sticking with the contributing versus non-contributing, because I think that is the most straightforward way for us to preserve our special homes while also still preserving our districts. Right? Okay.
These terms, contributing and non-contributing, et cetera, is that in the Interior Secretary's guidelines?
It's just a common, yes, I think it is actually. But really what it boils down to is, certain homes that are, say, a home on the register, the National Register or whatever, that is, protected, or that we deem as a city. That's what's so important about these, is they take sort of what we've been using, which is the Secretary of Interior standards, and they personalize it. They say, this is what our priorities are. So rather than referring to these large, confusing and wide-ranging documents that apply to everywhere, this will be Placerville's sort of like Bible of historic priorities. Like, this is what we deem important. These are the homes that we do not, that we want wood for wood, to go to the term we all, that pains Chair Keeney. So really highlighting our priorities rather than what we've been doing, which has caused what I think has caused a lot of confusion, is referencing these large overarching documents that apply from everything to a Pasadena to wherever, that encompass everything, and instead it's making essentially our own version of standards that also highlights the particular the particular needs of our community and the priorities of our community and the properties in our community that are important. Am I?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it forces us to think through some of the challenges that we have because we don't have contributing versus non-contributing properties, so how do we address that in a historic district, all that will be something that will flesh out and work out so that somebody who wants to make a change to their home will have a really good idea of how the planning commission will, or even if they need to come to the planning
how
commission,
strict it's gonna be,
right?
right?
Like how what's our general approach going to be?
Can you give me some examples, some illustrations?
Let's, rather than prolonging this discussion, I think we need to, Kirk, you haven't read as many documents as the three of us have, so let's instead kind of pare that down and maybe highlight one that has a good definition for your review.
Because I spent 2 years on it, as did Ryan Carter spent 2 years on it. So I was asking for specific examples.
Well, we're not prepared.
No, excuse me, if you're going to, that's a personal comment, and factually it's not correct. I cannot tell you how many times in the last year I've heard things discussed that we elaborate on at great length over the last 2 years. One was, for example, when you commented about only going back to 1930.
Oh, no, wait a minute. We're getting way off topic. Kurt, you asked for you want examples of contributing, non-contributing, and I think we can provide that. And it's late, and that's not really what, we're prepared to talk about, to revisit all of the work that you've done previously. We can agendize that for the next meeting. If you want to review the document that you and Ryan Carter created, go ahead and talk to staff. We can add that to 12.2, and we can discuss that. But I don't want to get into a review of that old document. We're trying to move forward, and you've asked for something very specific. Catherine, if you have a good document at hand, let's have that link provided so that we can all get educated and learn about these terms and so that we can all talk about them knowledgeably.
The document? Which document?
There was a special committee formed, and it was Kirk Smith and Ryan Carter, and they developed
I do.
a
Yes,
summary.
yeah. So I just wanted to point out. So I do have the document that you prepared. So all of that, all of those documents are part of what's being is part of building this.
Example. There was a house on Cedar Ravine, an historic district, and it was a 1950s house. And the question was whether that was an historic house. So how would you apply that standard of contributing or non-contributing? And it's a 1950s ranch-style house. So if you have the idea that an historic property is 50 years from the date when the city came up with its inventory would have been
Exactly.
Yeah, so
That's what we're getting at.
those are all the
We
things
need
that
to
will be
define
worked
this.
out. Yeah, we
Right.
need to figure out how do we, like in those situations.
You've hit the
how
nail
are we
on the
gonna-
head.
Yeah.
50 years.
Yeah, what is
So-
our definition? So that's
And
where we need to go first is a clear definition of what defines our community and have a clear statement of that, dates, not too broad, and then you can start to identify the contributing and non-contributing.
Well, I think we can get into, but I think all these things will be, I think this will be a really good process, that all these things will get fleshed out and it'll be a great, obviously everybody knows that this is very much needed, so.
Yeah.
So there's progress being made in actually narrating.
I appreciate you bringing this forward, and I think it helps me put a framework to the work that we're doing and see where everything is moving. So, thank you.
So I'd like to draw that discussion to a close. And Mike Drobish, do you have a comment on the use of the preservation planning guidelines. We're on to 12, 2.
Yeah, great work. When it comes to deciding like an era, contributing, non-contributing, I think you should almost analyze how much of since we have so many different types of architecture, instead of picking a period, how much of that house is original? Are you going to put
much
it
of the
on a
house is
percentage scale?
Original, okay.
Yeah, to itself, because I agree that perfect example of a 1950s red ranch house, it was just a time warp, and it was perfect representation of that era, and it would have scored like 95%. So that's one way I would look at a building, is what style is it? How authentic is it?
But we also need to have that as part of our definition of the historic district. The conundrum we're in now, our language in the general plan is, and the general plan specifically and other documents I've looked at is kind of vague, but really talking about predating a ranch house like, 1950s. So is that, and we have to decide, is that where we're going to go with this, with our historic districts, or are we going to have an older definition, which is kind of what our inventory points to, something, our inventory kind of stops at houses in the 1930s in our inventory. So we need to find out what our starting material is and take our definitions from that. If we need to change it, then that's another discussion, and completely valid.
What I'd like to see is the historic guidelines be applied to our 4 historic districts. Anything over 75, it would require a scoring, which is, I guess that's time intensive. You have to have somebody knowledgeable.
Yes.
For property.
So that's I hope you're hearing what we're saying. We need to gather our documents, summarize, and then get as far as we can, and then take that to City Council, saying we got to have some experts to take this the next step.
Yeah, I mean, I could see an application with pictures and make my own decision. How, if the place has been completely changed over the years and it's not worthy anymore, go ahead. Whatever. But that's
right. We're trying to prevent
try
that
to keep it,
from happening again. Yeah.
At the middle level of education, of understanding, easier to understand for the average person. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments.
In terms of being able to bring in a professional, I'm curious if anyone is already tracking like grant opportunities that are available.
I think having the planning document will help make that opportunity much better for the city.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question is that too early, or would it help kind of
yes, if we
move us along?
If we could point to that when we do our application, they show that we, have put in that groundwork.
That is exactly when I started and was looking into things. We need to move further forward, and as you stated, get city council buy-in, because they weren't as. It's a big investment in many ways to get to the point that we're discussing. So I think we need to first make the documents accessible on the website. Let's start there. Take bites. So I think it's probably too early to be really actively looking for grants. But that is the end goal, right? Is to get to where we can we have all of our ducks in a row to really hone in on these specifics that we're now talking about. This is. I'm just happy this is moving forward because, feel my vision coming to life, and it's very exciting. Okay.
All right, great. All right, lots of work. Get back to my agenda. I think that's everything on the agenda, isn't it? Does anybody have an agenda in front of them? Here we go. Good Lord. 12.2.2. 2026 reorganization of Planning Commission, Chair and Vice Chair election, item required per Article 5B of the Planning Commission bylaws. So here we are in March. So this is our opportunity to take care of this administrative task, right, Ms. Kendrick?
Correct.
Okay. So right now I'm chair, and Amy, you're vice chair. So how do you feel? You have, in addition to your family, how do you feel about continuing your, guidance?
I'd be open to continuing as vice chair.
Vice chair?
Yeah, I'm loath to take on a chair right now, just with my thing. If that's amenable. If not, then I'll just be a commissioner too.
I'll open it up. I'm willing to continue as chair, since you're not willing to take on the chair. Would one of the rest of you like to step into the vice chair for possible, I don't know. There's not a lot of experience in this since it's a more informal commission, but we could continue for another year, vice chair and chair, if that's, unless someone wants to step up.
We've, over the years, usually had rotation, and there's been some advantage to that. There's also some advantage to consistency, inertia, if you will. I thought about Catherine because of new talent and utilizing Catherine. So I'm open to whatever you can formulate a consensus for, but those are the two considerations.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of thinking the same thing. Catherine, are you interested in stepping into the vice chair spot? There's not, I plan on attending all meetings, so I would, be here to lead the group. But the event that I'm not, or maybe I have to recuse myself, it is an opportunity to lead the commission.
I mean, I'm open to it, but I also think that our current vice chair is doing an incredible job, and so if she wants to continue, I think that that's wonderful. So I'm learning, and I feel like the way that this commission works, we all have a voice, and so I don't feel like I'm necessarily missing out on anything by not being vice chair.
Okay.
But if that opportunity came to me, I would be more than happy to take it. So my goal for this year, though, is to really focus on the historic review stuff, so I really want to put the majority, my energy into that.
I appreciate you saying that, because I really, I've lost some energy for it. I say it's a casual, we have a good repartee. It goes pretty easily, but yeah, week in, week out, I feel like I've, given a lot of time and effort as chair. So I appreciate you all stepping up to do more on the historic guidelines and keep it moving forward. So that does kind of free up my my bandwidth, if you will, and it gives me confidence that you've got this moving forward for us. I did wanted to ask, and I will leave Alyssa out of this conversation. Do you have where are you on this vice chairmanship?
I have no intent to serve as vice chair or chair.
Keep in mind what you heard from Kirk Smith.
Yes. I agree with what you said in terms of consistency is valuable. I think this first year has been really great for me to learn the procedures and get more familiar with development standards. And so kind of now I'm getting into the swing of being comfortable making recommendations and whatnot. So I would be perfectly happy to have you guys continue, or if there's a change that you would like to make, that's also fine.
Okay. So, all right. Well, we need a motion for chair and vice chair election. We both are willing to continue to serve in these positions.
So I move.
We have a motion from Kirk Smith to continue Keeney as chair and Lepper as vice chair,
I'll second.
and a second from Ms. Sylvester. Roll call vote, just because I'd like to see Dina do something.
Commissioner Stratton,
Aye.
Commissioner Sylvester,
Aye.
Commissioner Lepper,
Aye.
Commissioner Smith,
I abstain? No.
and Chair Keeney.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everyone. Really enjoyed hearing from all of you about this, and encourage both of our newer members to, I'm glad to hear that, you feel like you're getting your feet here in this planning commission. So that concludes our agenda, and we stand adjourned here at 9:18 and until the 7th of April.
Before 10 o'clock.
Oh, we did it.